Hi, guys. Happy Saturday. Happy High Strangeness night. Are you all shocked? Are you going to fall over that I'm actually here on time tonight? I know, it's amazing. So thanks for being here tonight. We have what I am sure will be an interesting show tonight with Thothschild. He was on about 2 weeks ago. So tonight is the return of Thothschild. I thought it would be, briefly, he touched on the Shemitah or the Shemitah. I'll have to ask him how to pronounce it. So I figured tonight we can deep dive a little more into that, and what's ahead, how that's connected to world events and financial events and what is happening, what the fall and beyond might look like. So, how is everyone tonight? Oh, look at the chat. Let me see what's going on. Hexagon Chief NZ. I'm guessing NZ is New Zealand. Are you from New Zealand? I mean, don't worry, I'm not going to do a Kiwi accent. Torin, if you all want to see Torn's knife page, it is a fantastic resource about knife making and just all about knives. If you go to my Twitter, you will find the link right there. And then I'm sure, you know what? Yeah, let's drop it into the chat too. So that way anybody can check it out. So thank you so much for putting that resource there for us. If you are interested in, preparedness and survivalism too, that is a really great way to it's a great introduction into knives. And if you are, past the beginner, is it expert, even if whatever, maybe if you know more about it, it's a great reference. So highly recommend checking out his work. And thank you for putting pictures on there of the process too. Hex Mac, My Online Ghost, Ada, Bearded Saint, Insidious Tomas. Awesome seeing you all here tonight. So I think I'm not sure what time Thothschild will be joining us. Hopefully soon. So as soon as I see him pop into the studio, I'll put him up. But otherwise, yeah, let's just chat back and forth a little bit tonight. Hey, Mr. Okel, how's it going? So there was something. Oh shoot, there was something I wanted to touch on that was really interesting. So this James Webb Telescope that I guess it's supposed to be more powerful than the Hubble and is supposed to see deeper into space, different than anything we've seen before. And and I'm not going to debate space or the Earth right now. Let's just talk about that telescope. And even if you don't believe it, just roll with me. Let's pretend it's all real. So scientists are in a little bit of a panic about the James Webb Telescope because it's kind of shaking everything that they knew. So most of science and astronomy and physics, is based on the idea of the Big Bang Theory. And you all know what the Big Bang Theory is. I don't have to explain it. It's just it's a theory, but it's become common accepted knowledge and everybody accepts it as fact. But now with the James Webb Telescope looking into deep space, it has found, and being able to look deeper than ever into space, it has found that there are more galaxies farther away in space than they realize and way older than they realize, very ancient galaxies, especially with the idea of the Big Bang Theory. The farthest away galaxies are the oldest in the universe. So this is mind-blowing. They did not expect to see it. And so some articles, I did see an article and it said panic at the James Webb Telescope, and some scientists were like, this keeps me up at night. And it's kind of weird because it's why is it so shocking? Why does it keep you up at night? Cool, they found old ancient galaxies, but it's keeping them up at night because now it's kind of questioning for some reason with astrophysics. I don't know enough about it to understand why, but for some reason that revelation of these old, very far away galaxies puts the validity, or that's probably not the word, but it makes it so that it's kind of showing scientists that the Big Bang Theory may not have actually happened. For some reason, those galaxies kind of disprove it. So now it's keeping them up at night because this is a complete shock to their worldview. And they're saying my whole life's research, my whole life's work, maybe just based on this thing that is being disproven. So they're it's keeping me up at night. And I think that's amazing. It just shows how things constantly change. And I have to give credit to the scientists. Yeah, you know what? It's a scary thing, I'm sure, to be, rocked in your beliefs and what you thought was true in your life's work. But so I'm sure it's scary, but I have to give them credit for the fact that, you know what, they're accepting the fact that, okay, it may not be what we think. Let's, instead of being in denial, they're like, okay, let me keep me up at night and let me move forward. So I think that's pretty wild and pretty awesome. So let me catch up with this. See the chat moving quickly. So I want to see what's going on in here. Drix, David Lee. Awesome. Everybody's filtering in tonight because I know it's so shocking that I'm here on time. So everybody's probably thought, oh, we can pop in 15 minutes later. It'll just be starting because that is the usual. Hex mix. Yeah. So deeper in space. Yeah, exactly. That's what's happening with the telescope, seeing deeper in space than usual. And and I guess what did they expect to see? Like nothing past a certain point, but they're like, oh, there's stuff there. I mean, and to me, like I said, it didn't seem like a surprise, but to them, they're like, it's keeping us up at night. So the earth is a woman. Is this is this like that whole thing? What is it that they all is Beyonce thing? God is a woman. Is that what she says? The earth is a woman. No, I know. I'm just that's what it reminds me of. So yeah, so let me catch up. Hexenize. Fancy seeing all you all here. Is this the first time I've seen you in the chat? I feel like I haven't seen you in the live chat yet. And forgive me if I'm skipping any names. The chat is going by quickly. Julian, thank you for that. You know, I mean, there's a lot of arrogance in science. So sometimes I feel like, you know what? The scientists need a little rocking of their beliefs. You know, they need to be knocked down a few notches, a few pegs, so that they can kind of, you know, put them in their place. Learn to be a little more open and willing to learn instead of arrogant all the time. So you know what? Good. You know, now people are going to say I hate scientists, but no, I studied science. Yeah, change is the only constant. It's constant. Yeah, exactly. It's constantly changing. It sounds like a pun, but it's always changed over time and over history. So like, I don't understand what the scientists think that it's going to stand still and it's always going to be as they think. No, it has to change. So beliefs are for children. What's real is real. What's true is true. And the truth is we don't know. Yeah, exactly. We don't. So again, so why are these scientists like so firm in their beliefs? The fact that things are keeping them up all night. You're a scientist. You're supposed to be open to what the data shows and, you know, whatever new things it may be bringing into science. But yeah. Hey, Tin Top. We didn't need telescopes. We went there. What do you mean we went there? Ooh, that sounds mysterious. Hey, Hex Force. Right? Well, you know what? I guess, yeah, they're kind of being I never had a problem with the Big Bang Theory. It's like whatever. But yeah, I guess these they're really rethinking things, these guys. Can you imagine studying the Big Bang Theory and basing everything on it your whole life and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we were wrong. I think that's exciting. You know, it opens up I don't know. It opens up the potential for new theories maybe once you can discard one, but I don't know. Maybe they're being toddlers. Hey, Thothschild. So I DM'd you the oh, okay. I thought you were looking for the StreamYard link. So it's in your Twitter DMs. Okay. You're with no problem. We're just chatting back and forth. Whenever you're ready, we will put you in here. We will patch you in. Oh yeah, no problem. But I was just like, oh wait, I don't think I recognize your name. I figured you meant everybody. Good to see you. Well, it's good to see you too. Oh, okay. I have heard people talk about that. Gotcha. And amen to that. God being the only constant. I am on that same page. The Alpha and the Omega. Oh, there was another thing I was going to say and I forgot it. See, things move out of my brain too quickly. If I don't say them, I just forget. Too many dudes in here. I'm reaching out to some of our Amazons. It's all good. Whatever. You know? Aren't we supposed to be moving into the genderless society so none of this matters? I don't know. I'm just playing. I love all you all regardless of your gender. You can't stay long, Tin Top. You'll be back later. You popped in and hit the like button. Thank you so much. So if all you guys can like and subscribe, if you're not already subscribed, that would mean a lot to me. So thank you so much. Stoked to be here, Hexenize. I am stoked to have you here. So Hex Cowboy, he said he's got a really good, weird story he wants to share with us. I guess, but next time he's in a live stream, I was hoping I would see him in here. Hex Cowboy, are you in here? Just pop in and say hey if you wanna share that story with us. Otherwise, we'll save it for another time. Wait, is Thothschild a woman? No, Thothschild is not a woman as far as I know, but I did not ask them their pronouns. If these scientists sat down and had a high dose experience in psychedelics, preferably DMT, they would see how stupid everything we think is. Not my cup of tea. I've heard stories. Actually, speaking of, I listened to such an amazing podcast. I had this podcast, I had subscribed to it, but I hadn't listened to any episodes yet. It's called Not So Secret Societies, if you want to look it up. Make sure it's societies plural, because Not So Secret Society is like a book podcast, but Not So Secret Societies is, a weird stuff, hidden world type, you know what I mean? Like families that rule the world and everything, and the secret societies around the world. It's a podcast based on that. And I listened to a really wild episode that talked about electricity, and maybe electricity has connections to the demonic, because Ben Franklin, when he was discovering electricity, apparently he was like into some pretty dark occultic stuff and into sex magic, and like when they dug up like parts of his cabin, they found bodies under his cabin, and it was wild because these connections with the demonic and with electricity, they're like, you know what? Maybe he wasn't just a scientist trying to figure out electricity. Maybe he was doing something with the demonic, and that was how he happened to stumble across it. So a really wild episode. That was last week's episode. I would highly recommend checking it out. I tweeted it out, so it is on my Twitter. But she actually spoke about psychedelics and her experiences with astral projection, and I am hoping to have her on here because she told such a wild story, and I want her to tell it in depth. So I have reached out to her. We'll see what happens with that, but that would be an amazing high strangeness night. Now, who wants violence? Something going on in the chat. Got fresh Aya down here in CR. Where's CR? Costa Rica. Cool. Here it's an amazing place. Consciousness / spirit is fundamental to reality. Consciousness travels universes. Interesting. This is a different perspective, and I've heard people talk about that perspective. I prefer to keep my consciousness encased in its vessel for now, because I do believe there are consequences of letting it travel. So I'm hoping that's why I would love to get this woman on next week, and her name is escaping me, but she talks about what happened to her when she did astral project, and what that what the consequences of that were. So a really wild story. I'm excited about that. Like I said, if I can get her on, she's got a lot of followers, so who knows? So maybe I'm too small a channel for her. Let's see. Cool. This is really jumping around this chat. The chat is hopping. Have you on sometime? You have hundreds of psychedelic experiences under my belt. Oh, it'd be wild if we get the two of you guys together on one. So thank you, Hexmac, for making that offer. You're on Twitter, right? We follow each other, so I'm glad we're connected there. If we are not, connect with me there, and we'll talk about some future plans and ideas. Who am I calling a female? I was just reading off I was just rolling with the chat, because you never told me your pronouns, Thothschild, because somebody was asking, are you a woman? And I said, I don't know. Yeah. So my dad actually has a wild story that he heard from somebody that was astral projecting, and I had never heard this before, but he knew this guy when he was young. And he said this guy was explaining his experiences with astral projection. And one time he said he got stuck in like the walls of his house, and it freaked him out because he couldn't get back to his body. And he was actually like almost like he was physically stuck in there. And that story always stuck with me and really freaked me out. And that was like, I never wanted to do that again. It was such a horrifying experience. So that's mainly the only story I've heard from anyone like I kind of know indirectly. I haven't heard too many other experiences. I guess it's never been a topic of interest to me. I never thought much about it until I heard this podcast the other day. But personally, not my cup of tea. I don't like opening spiritual doors. I think it's spiritually dangerous. No offense to anybody who's into it, but I'm like, me, it's not for me. Nor would I be recommending it for anybody. Oh, you got to go? You arrived at your families? Well, thanks for hanging with us until you got there. Have a good time with your family, Mexican Chief. And I'm guessing you're in New Zealand, so have a good day with your family. Gotta leave that vessel. Nope, not for me. Okay, interesting. So you haven't, you're not pro or against, you're just neutral on it. Okay. Okay, you're talking to your problem child. All right, no problem. We're having a good time in the chat. I'm having a good time with you guys. Oh yeah, I mean, nothing in life is without risk and consequences. So, and I think especially when you start messing around with, with your spirit that's, in your body, and then trying to communicate with the spirit world and other dimensions, I think it becomes very extremely dangerous. And unfortunately, there's too many people that take it too lightly, and we've seen what happens with that. So you've had a few near-death experiences. One was really eye-opening. Oh, you'll have to share that with us. Should we do a near-death experience show? You know what? The thing that I love about, having a show called High Strangeness, and I've only been doing this a few months, but you can see that I'm feeling my way, through this, and kind of, it takes time. It takes a few months to get started and getting settled. But what I'm really seeing, I dropped my pen again. Do I drop my pen every stream? It's like a fidget toy. Well, let's hope I don't have to write something. Anyway, so the thing with high strangeness is, high strangeness, coined by J. Allen Hynek, or Alan J. Hynek, is used to speak about UFOs. And whenever you're like in the presence of UFO, the weird things that happen, the fact that your phone will drain battery, or you'll have, the lights will flicker, all that weird stuff. He coined high strangeness. I'm sorry, I can't sit still. He coined it to be high strangeness. And so I went with that because I've always liked that term. But I'm like, you know what? High strangeness to me means anything unusual. Most people don't like to open their minds and think about all these things that we talk about, that they're different. So I'm like, you know what? I like the fact that it's kind of a broad thing. You know what? I don't have to focus just on UFOs and the paranormal. We could talk about anything here. Like, we talked about the families that we touched on it a little bit, the families that rule the world, like the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergs and stuff like that. So, and I love that you guys are along for the ride, and you are totally like into all this too, and that you have such great suggestions on all this. So you are having a great time, Mr. Okel. You love it here. Thank you so much. So a channel called OTLE would be a great guest for this show. Talks on near-death experiences. Interesting. Cool. I always love these suggestions. Thank you guys. That's how we got Flat Earth Dave on here. So, however, I do believe it has allowed me to hear more clearly from God and snapped me back to him. Also has helped in some healing in my marriage. I'm so torn. Interesting. So with my perspective, like I said, my faith makes me not want to participate in these things, and has shown me that these things, aren't maybe the wisest thing to do for everybody, really. I was about to try to be nice and say most people. But again, that's my faith. But it's interesting because in the Bible, I think it talks about the fact that, everything can be redeemed. And to me, when I hear that it snapped you back to him, it's like, okay, psychedelics could lead to spiritual problems, things attaching you to you, opening back doors. But the fact that you're not like totally into it, you're like, you know what, maybe it's not a great thing, but he redeemed that experience. He turned the bad into good, so that's what I think, that everything is redeemable. But maybe then it's a good idea to back off from it and say, okay, I've gotten away scot-free for now, but I don't want to push it any further. But that's my opinion. give her some alpha she has to write down. What do you mean alpha? Some alpha channel? Some, I don't know. It's like a fidget toy. I don't know. Am I a little hyper? Now I'm wondering where my pen went. I don't know. Must have went into the closet. You are likely living in a world where dimensional gates are being opened I'm guessing you mean every day. Learning to handle these potential threats of spirituality may become a thing of the norm. Oh, for sure. I mean, because people are constantly toying with bringing this stuff to us, good and bad. Some people think they're communing with good and they're bringing bad things in, and some people are intentionally bringing the bad stuff in. And I'm trying to understand the concept of stargates. And I know stargates are, first of all, stargates are used in science fiction and you travel within the universe in it. But there is a belief that, oh no, they're like legit portals into other dimensions and they do exist on the earth and you can go other places with it. And I'm curious of whether stargates is also spiritual, whether it could let the demonic in too. So I'm learning about stargates here and there. So that's something I want to dive more into because of what you mentioned here. It's about Swedenborg. Emanuel Swedenborg had many spiritual experiences. Interesting. I've never heard of that name. What's odd and kind of sad is that there's an awesome physical experience / spiritual, sorry, I'm getting tongue tied, that everyone could have safely. Best experience of my life, and I get to do it anytime I want, then get to escape. Okay. Not my cup of tea though. But thank you for sharing. And listen, I'm not being mean. I'm just like, no, for me, I tend to flee from a lot of things that I don't want to mess with. So I don't, when they say don't touch things with a 10-foot pole. So I try to really stay away. Like I know there are benefits to microdosing psychedelics and doing that type of thing. They're just wonderful health benefits and it's good for your brain. And I know if you take it at a microdose, you don't have any of these psychedelic effects. But for me, I'm like, I don't want to open that door. I'm like, I'll leave it for the people who really need it. But for me, I try to stay away. But in terms of microdosing, I think it is an amazing thing that has a lot of potential. Of course, though, with the corruption in our pharmaceutical industry and government, I don't believe we'll ever fully know how good that actually is and what type of things that can prevent. Because if like a pack of, what is a microdose package, a month microdose package costs like 60 something bucks. And if that can cure your untreatable depression, then they don't make the money off of keeping you on depression meds for years. So we'll never know the answer to that. Same thing why I believe we'll never have a cure for cancer, or it'll never be widely known. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Acts 2:38, speaking in tongues is what you were talking about. Okay. Gotcha. I thought you were talking about something else there. What's Thothschild return? You mean when is he coming into the stream? He said he had like a kid emergency to handle, but I think he'll be in shortly. So as soon as I see him pop into the waiting room, I will put him right up here. But for now, we're just hanging out, having a chat. Unimax, you're the 20th like. Thank you so much for that like. I appreciate every like and every subscribe that I get. So you guys see anything else weird in the news? Any other podcasts and stuff you're into? 5 minutes. Okay, no problem. Thanks for the heads up. Sometimes I like to open Coast to Coast AM. And I'm looking at it right now because sometimes some things on there could be extreme, but things that seemed extreme to me on here, like maybe 15 years ago, all of a sudden make a lot more sense now. So I'm like, maybe they've been on target, but just kind of like ahead of its time. So I am scrolling through Coast to Coast, and I see an article here. NASA provides update on UFO study, calls forthcoming project high priority. It just makes me laugh because I'm like, can you trust anything that comes out of NASA? And the fact that they're doing a UFO study, I'm like, okay, NASA's the one that will censor videos. Like, their live streams from space when something weird floats into it. They're the ones that censor. Or all of a sudden, if there's something that comes into the screen during a launch, all of a sudden you can't find those videos again. So NASA, who is doing that censoring, we're supposed to trust them when it comes to UFO studies. I don't buy it. But sorry, I'm distracted by all the news. But yeah, so I don't buy it. Especially anytime the government wants to get into UFOs, anytime NASA. I don't trust NASA as a corporation in general, or whatever governmental organization. I do believe there is a secret space program happening, and that we are so much more ahead than what they led on to. But for whatever reason, they don't want to tell us. I don't know if it's a thing of control or a strategic thing. Who knows? Weiss was on that show. Oh, on Coast to Coast. Yes, I believe he was on Coast to Coast. Potential, pardon me, but our species evolved following around animals that we wanted to kill and eat. Mushrooms grew out of there. We ate the mushrooms. Now we have a prefrontal cortex. You're saying the mushrooms cause the development of the prefrontal cortex, that was a thing that came out of fungi? Oh, thank you. That X-Files poster. It's a cute little tin sign my friend got me for Christmas. So that was, so she knows she knows how much I love the X-Files. And I think everybody here knows that now too. And little aliens too. Yeah, so Coast to Coast, you forgot about that show. You remember Art Bell? He was amazing to my young self. You know what? I remember being in high school, and I can't remember if it was Art Bell still doing it or if it was George Norrie, but during my free periods, I would be in the library just looking at the news on the Coast to Coast AM site, because I never stayed up to listen to it, but I know my dad would sometimes, and then he would tell us the stories. We would be sitting at the kitchen island, and he would tell us the stories that we would hear on Coast to Coast, and it was just, it was stories I still remember to this day. So now I'm like, you know what? It's a pretty interesting news source, especially like the stuff that I thought was like, oh, so ridiculous and far-fetched, but I still enjoyed reading it. I'm like, now all of a sudden makes sense. Like, especially if you think about in the Book of Enoch, when it talks about the Nephilim being cast into the earth. And there was this story on Coast to Coast AM where they're like, some really, really deep hole was dug into the earth, and they put a microphone in, and then you hear this wailing. And my dad was telling me, this was, I was in high school, and he was relaying what he had heard on Coast to Coast. And he said it was like so chilling. It was so freaky. He had to turn off the radio. He couldn't listen to this wailing coming from in the earth. And, we were just like, oh, that's weird, but who knows? We didn't think too much of it. And I thought it was like one of those silly tabloidy type things, but I'm like, okay, still a cool story because I'm a sci-fi fan. But then all of a sudden, years later, when I learned about the Book of Enoch and what it says about the Nephilim in the earth, I'm like, you know what? That could be legit. That could actually be microphone recordings of the Nephilim down there. So I'm like, now I'm like, maybe it's not so off the mark. I guess it's like that thing that, the conspiracy theorists become right, especially now more than ever. Everything that was called a conspiracy theory is now like become truth. Still waiting for NASA to show a picture of the backside of the moon. I thought there is pictures of the dark side of the moon out there. Because they did go around it during the Apollo missions. Okay, and I know a lot of people want to say the Apollo missions were fake. I wouldn't be, if I don't know either way, but to be honest, I don't really care either way if they're fake or not. And Kubrick, supposedly admitted to it, but honestly, Kubrick, I don't know if he's still alive, but he was nuts. So I'm like, why are we listening to him? But anyway, but regardless of whether whether that moon landing was fake or not, I think that, there's a secret space program going on. So anyone else seen the strange stars in the sky the past few years? So unlike anything I've ever saw before the last few years, so talk about high strangeness. I haven't seen anything like that. Sorry, my hair is now annoying me because I went upside down looking for my pen before. Interesting. Because okay, I live in the New York City area, so I don't see stars the same way everybody else sees it. I had never known until I was like in college and went out all the way to the end of Long Island just how many stars there were in the sky. I thought, these few specks that we see here or there are the stars. So I don't see the stars as well as you guys. So I don't know what's been going on with the stars. Ooh, can you give us some details? Have I ever seen a UFO? Something identified? I've seen some strange things, definitely in the sky, but nothing too notable. But I'll save those stories. I've told them before, but for anyone who has not caught those stories, I'm gonna save it for when I have a UFO investigator on, which I know I've been saying, but I will finally get that schedule nailed down with him, and then we'll talk about it in there. The Russian time traveler. It sounds vaguely familiar. Those sounds your dad heard were probably from the Haditha Dam near the Euphrates River in Iraq. Okay, I'll have to look that up now. Now I'm curious if that was it or not. Hey, Flat Earth Underground. NASA been hiding the moon booty from us. Show us the booty, like the dark side of the moon. I guess that's why. I don't watch the news anymore. Coast to Coast show is really good. Have you tried Carrie Cassidy Project Camelot? David Sorrenda regarding research. No, I haven't, but thank you for the suggestion. Because once I put it up, up on here, I will go back to the chat and I'll grab it off here, especially because I dropped my pen and I'll drop it on my live chat. So when I say that, thank you. I'm not dismissing it. I will go back and pull these names usually. This year is the Great Awakening. I guess I'm pretty jaded. I don't give people that much credit anymore to be awake. But you know what? Let's be positive. New York doesn't get stars. We get some. They just don't look as like bright as when I went to Montauk or the Outer Banks. And I was like, oh, these are what the stars are supposed to look like. You can actually see like Milky Way stuff. Wow. So go look at night. They hover way closer than other stars. I even saw two merge into one and explode one night. Me and three others all saw it. Oh, this is wild. We should all deep dig and see how many people are seeing that. That's wild. I once saw a star, likely not a star, move across the sky. And I'm like, oh, look at that star. It's an odd star. And then, it was moving. And I'm like, oh, it's a plane. It's a plane. And there's that light it's got on the plane. But then all of a sudden, the star went into like a patch of other stars and stopped. So I was like, okay, maybe it's like a helicopter and it's hovering. But then all of a sudden, it turned off its light and it blended into all the stars. I'm like that. Nope. So it made me realize how many stars are actually stars and how many aren't, because this thing moved and then just merged itself, like blended itself into the sky so you couldn't see it. And it was like responding to what I was saying. Like, I was like, guys, you see that? And then boom, it turned off its lights and then pretended it was a star. Wild. I think that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Oh, thank you, Hexagon Contractor. That's really kind of you. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry I'm behind. I know that there's always so much going on and I want to read it all. So you need to try and dig up that old show on the time travel and compare it. It was about 13 years ago. I'm telling you, like, it's so worth digging up the old stories and now adding it, in mind with what we know today. They start to seem like way more valid and relevant and like possible once you look at it with those eyes 15 years later. Oh, to see them out in the desert, man. I do want to see. That's one of the things I want to see, the desert stars. If I was going to PulseCon, I would be out there in the desert, driving out, renting a car with a bunch of friends and being like, okay, let's look at these stars and look for UFOs. Hey, Brian, thanks for being here. Yeah, I was about to say, I know you were just on another stream, so thanks for coming into here. If they said, come with us, would you go? Absolutely not. But I would, if any of you all want to go, I'll give them your number, the aliens, and say, listen, call them up. They're into it. Oh, it's kind of like, and spoiler alert, if you have not seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but I'm sure you all have seen it, plug your ears. But it's like the ending of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. As a kid, it always like messed me up because I'm like, why would you go with the aliens? Like, no. It was like a horror movie to me when I saw him go with the aliens. To check out Stellium 7 channel if you're into petrified giants, titans, things like that. I am. Thank you. I've been looking more into the giant stuff, and I totally believe that that's a thing that's hidden from us. Don't they say like Devil's Tower in Wyoming? Is it actually has like a root system underneath, and it looks like it was chopped like a tree? So it's like, who did that chopping? You had to be someone really big. No, I have not heard of any supernatural things in Cypress Cemetery, but I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that happens in the city, and I'm sure there's a lot of dark stuff that happens. You know what? I won't be able to do it tonight. I don't feel like digging through the book, but I should check in there and see if it's in Weird New York. Okay. Where? I'm out in the suburbs. I'm out in Westchester. Oh, Oppenheimer Ranch Project. That sounds vaguely familiar. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's what I take that thing. I'm like, if you have not woken up, especially in these past few years, then there isn't hope for you. And in the fact that people have now just completely shut down and become mindless, I'm like, I think it's over in terms of people waking up. Some will, but majority, no. I don't mean to be, I don't mean to be, what's it called, pessimist, but but maybe it's also where I live, the way people behave here. Who keeps deleting your comments and why, please? It's on topic. Oh, I'm not deleting anything. Is anyone deleting Andrew's comments? Sometimes I notice YouTube, like without my permission, will start deleting stuff or withholding comments. Sometimes if there's a link or something they don't like, which I don't like, because I'm like, you know what? If YouTube is doing that, shouldn't you like be notifying me that you're deleting this stuff on my behalf? But I guess that's like tech big brother. So I'm sorry that's happening to you, Andrew. That's not my doing, and I haven't told anyone to do it. So potentially YouTube. Because like I said, I found like where I should be getting comments. When you click your comments, you see like, the amount of people that have replied. And then I'll look and they're gone. So I don't know what's happening. Yeah, Wandering Stars. That's pretty much what I saw. And that's pretty much what Boardwalk saw. Can't wait until Hex and its ecosystem takes off. Yeah, I'm telling you, can you imagine all that Hex and PulseX money actually put in for research? Because a lot of times money that's put in for research by corporations and government agencies, it has a very specific, I don't want to say bias, worse than a bias. There's a pressure for the results to come out in a certain way. And of course, people are like, no, it's science. They got to accept the results for what it is. But then no, there is a pressure to have results show a certain thing. Otherwise, they won't get funding anymore. But here, this is like legit, like we're open to whatever the answers might be for the expeditions. It doesn't have that pressure or biases. Yeah, we're biased because we want to see weird stuff. But beyond that, can you imagine all that money together pooled, how far it could go? Okay, thanks for looking into that, Torn. Yeah, so that's something YouTube's doing and none of the moderators is. Courtney Brown from Farsight. Okay. For a second, I was like, Farscape? Oh, Farsight. Thank you. Okay, so Hexagon Contractor. I wanted to tell you when I was a kid, like 14, I went to a southwestern desert to learn how to shoot. But at night, I went on a walk with my dad. Ooh, this is getting creepy. And we saw a shooting star that ended up getting right above our heads, and it left a rainbow trail behind it. Any thoughts? That's interesting. Now, I know in chemistry that certain elements, when they're heated, leaves a certain color behind. Like I forget, like copper when it's heated. I don't know if it's green or yellow. I forget. but something like that. Magnesium leaves a certain color in the flame when it's heated. All different things. So it could be whatever was in that shoot, in that shooting star, in that meteorite, whatever material that meteorite was made out of, it was getting heated up, and that was the color of the flames that was behind it. That's what it could be. Or it could have been something completely weird, because you're talking desert and weird things happen in the desert. So I don't want to dismiss it. Most people would dismiss it and say, okay, it has to do with whatever minerals are in this meteorite. But for a rainbow, though, because that's weird, because if you have, that would have to mean that the minerals were very separated within it, which seems a little too perfect, because usually just the mineral composition is mixed throughout the meteorite. So I don't know. So I don't want to dismiss it because it happened in the desert, and that there's a lot of high strangeness in the desert. But that's wild. Wow, thank you for sharing that. Now, did you see it like hit the ground, or what eventually ended up happening to it? Yeah, exactly. I will give the aliens your guys' number. So yeah, if you guys want to recommend any topics, I love that the live chat just becomes this great resource of places, we can just share what we're into, share names of people, because I've come across some really great stuff because of you guys sharing names and websites and channels. So thank you for that. I've only ever been into the big New York City Public Library. But in terms of New York City, I prefer the suburban libraries. And up here in Westchester, every town has a library. So yeah, I don't have any recommended specifics, but pretty much around here they're well funded. So whatever you go into is good. Nice. Okay, Thothschild just popped in, but I'm just gonna quickly catch up on the chat real quick. Before. Exactly. Why is there only one? Why is there only mega animals and mega, plants and everything, but not mega humans? I mean, in the Bible actually has recorded mega humans in there. Goliath was a giant. Hey, Hexhotl. That's wild. I really want to look into this, because that's what I saw when I was in high school or college. That was what I saw move across the, now that I think about it, move across the interstate in Rockland County. Sorry guys, I'm just quickly catching up. I still want to watch Farscape, by the way. Yeah, it wasn't just one or two colors. It was rainbow. Yeah, that's what like makes me pause. That's what gives me pause. The fact that it was a rainbow and you didn't see it hit the ground, it just disappeared. That's wild. And like I said, the fact that it happened in the desert is what freaks me out. Anything that goes on in the desert. Turtle doves that showed up in your backyard, they hang out the same time every day for the past week. Is there spiritual meanings? I don't know. I mean, I don't read into it like, oh, it's somebody from beyond the grave sending you a sign, but I do believe that God will give us little signs in different ways that mean things to us. So I think it's, it could potentially be a message from God. Sometimes he'll send you a dove to hang around your house, if you're going through a hard time. I've seen that happen to people. Oh, so they were doves. So there it goes. So maybe there's something in your life that God wanted to show you, give you peace. And that was his sign to you. Snow in the desert. Oh, that must be a sight. Okay. All right, Thothschild, you good to go, or you need a few? Okay, you good? I see the thumbs up. All righty. All right. I'm going to hear about spelling somebody's name wrong. Sorry. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for being here tonight, Thothschild.
How are you doing, dear?
All right. How's everything?
I don't know if you heard some of what's been going on around here today.
Oh, in the Hex Pulse Chain community?
Yeah, I was one of those particularly impacted.
Oh, are you talking about PulseCon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I heard a little bit about that, but the thing was, like, I am, I don't mean to in a mean way, but I'm kind of detached because I'm not able to go to that type of stuff.
Mhm.
But is it not happening at all, or?
Oh, if I start, if I start, I won't know where to
Mhm.
stop. Let me just tell you that I've had to carry these around all day because this isn't even sufficient amounts of smudging to protect me from the amount of spirits I'm dealing with right now. It's been heavy. Yeah, I got rugged of a 6 month speaking engagement on the stage. I got rugged of my room. I got rugged of a lot, and I had taken a lot of steps, to get all the ducks in a row for this thing. So
Oh
it was,
shoot.
yeah, it was big. It was big because it was kind of a signpost on a trajectory of healing,
Yeah.
to where you could say, "Oh my God, I came this far." Because I
Mhm.
remember 12 years ago crossing a threshold into a rehab facility. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I
Mhm.
remember mom passing away, and being on the path, and her being so proud. And this felt like, I was even talking to Rags, Brandon, 2 nights ago, and I was so excited because it felt like, okay, this is a trajectory of a parabola we're on now. You know what I mean? And mom
Mhm.
always said, so it was surreal to wake up this morning and panic everywhere. And
Mhm.
I'm like,
Mhm.
Saturday, I'm like 9:30, just chilling kind of thing. And all of a sudden, I didn't even have my coffee in me, and I'm trying to understand what the. Yeah, I didn't say it. I wait. Here's my here's my swear jar.
Oh,
I didn't
thank you
write.
so much. Thank you for remembering. I appreciate
Ah,
that.
I got to write on it. I almost did too. Shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
And there's
there's
no
one.
judgment. It's just that, I try to keep it, steadily here,
It's
PG-13,
your
because some people are
hey. It's
sensitive.
your
So,
way. Okay. It's like the fella in here earlier, Okel. Know your audience, man. You're talking to a Philadelphian. I will fight you for calling me a female. I'm sorry. It's just who I am. I respect who you are. Respect who I am. I've been 50 years on planet Earth. Okel, I've never had a person say what you said to me. Never. 50 years, brother. It's Thothschild, a female. I know. You could have meant it as innocent as could be, but I never heard it before. So I'm like, where do you want to meet?
yeah, no, I
It's
think it was
nothing
innocent. He's
personal.
never heard, yeah,
It's just this.
right?
Plus, combine it with the day that I'm having.
Yeah, yeah, no, bad day in Impulse Land.
How are you doing, Ash?
I'm doing all right, staying busy, but, making things work.
Can you help me out? I couldn't stay um, all night last night. The three B's. What was the third B? Was it beer?
Oh, no, it was badasses. No, it was beans, bullets, and band-aids, man.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah, I love that saying.
Beans,
I don't
bullets.
know if that's like an old military saying or something, but I'm like, it's a good one. It's a good way to look at things.
Well, we DCA, right, into our investments on the blockchain.
Hmm.
I DCA into ammunition. So
Hmm.
I'm with you.
Can never have too much, especially now that they make it so much harder to get.
Well, you and I might have touched on this before. My brother, which by the way, I heard tonight, finally, where you're at, you might have some free chiropractic coming your way, my dear, from a man who has what we call Jesus hands.
No, really.
I am telling you the truth. My younger brother, 3 years, one
Mhm.
day, younger brother. I'm a Libra. He's a Scorpio. Um, he is Dr. Up there, right around where you are. Although he and his Israeli wife are going to be matriculating to the warmer climes
Oh, are
of,
they?
uh,
Okay.
of Florida soon. Yeah, she's like desert people, and her parents are desert people. I'm like, how do you guys do 8 month winters up there?
I know. It's like most of our time up here is just spent in winter. Oh, that's amazing. I actually have an amazing
Do
chiropractor
you?
that I've
They might
had
even know each other.
since I was a kid, but I'm curious. I'm curious if I know the name. So we will talk about that after once we're once we're off of this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's good.
So that is so thanks for popping on tonight. And like it really piqued my interest. Now tell me, is it Shmita, Shamita? How do you say it?
Okay, there are a couple different
Mhm.
spellings. My understanding, as you know, I'm about 25 to 30 years on an independent path of research and study. However, I knew that there was a lunar cycle. I knew that there was an ancient lunar cycle dark occult, high master psychologist, game theory optimal people. Okay, that what some might call cabal, the ones that are what they're doing the androgyne messaging. They're
Mhm.
doing the human sacrifice to try and get the the juice.
Yeah.
They're the pedophilia. We could
Mhm.
even go so far as to say, okay, if we had Lemuria and Mu, and then Atlantis, and when we had the sons of Belial were the
Mhm.
one arm, and then there was the other arm, and it's this ancient struggle between these two schools. The one school is always going to be following a lunar calendar. It's always going to be on a cycle. In this epoch, it is the 7 year. If we look at Shemitah, spelled Shmita, that's the nearer, okay, spelling. More ancient, Schmeta, I believe, and it may even have an H on the end in some spellings too. Which, if you're doing numerology and gematria, is kind of a big deal because you're adding different values or integers to how you're going
Mhm.
to get your read. But much like when we looked at Bitcoin and its manipulations, which we call the Wyckoff, okay, the 4 phases of Wyckoff, we layer that Bitcoin chart modern day with the run up to the stock market crash in the end of 1920s, beginning of 1930s. Your jaw hits the floor, Ash. You're like, it's the same chart. Oh my God. And it's what freaks you out is you're like, they really understand our sentiment that
Mm.
well. And I would contend that people who aren't highly intelligent or insightful will be like, oh, markets are sentiment and they're only sentiment, and that's human sentiment. But that is an oversimplification. They're playing us. They are playing us. But we should always be aware, and crypto should be teaching us this. If you and I and 2,000 like minded people make a concerted move tomorrow, like we all agree, to take 80% of our bags and do the same thing with them, we still don't affect a chart change that one whale would, or say 3 sharks in a concerted move would make. We have to understand, the ratios here. So
Yeah.
that kind of lets you know it's kind of a microcosm of the reality of power and power distribution. Um, we can pray all day and we can make concerted efforts of
Mhm.
a certain financial class, and we're not going to smell them for
Yeah.
they're millions of miles ahead of us, which is why it's kind of so easy for them to slap us around a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you see the link that I shared with both you last week and Torin, I think, in your chat as an admin last night? It illustrates that point perfectly.
Okay. No, I don't think I saw it yet.
Okay. So then on that front, we're talking about the rise of allopathic medicine, how
Mhm.
easy it was for the Rothschilds to issue the dictate to their underlings, okay, in the families,
Oh, yes, that
the
link. Thank you. I
Rockefellers.
haven't had a chance to yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
But I have
and
it. Yeah.
people throughout my life, you guys tell me what y'all think. Throughout my life, people who even cared about me would say, why would they do that? Can you imagine the amount of energy and it would take for them to do that? And it's just asinine. It's crazy that they wouldn't do that, or that they would do that. And you're sitting there with your logical, critical, deductive thinking mind, and you're going, let me see. If all of the money and all of the power was at stake on planet Earth, what wouldn't there be worth it to do?
Mhm.
They they're ninjas, man. They figured it out, and it's how we just had the shammy scammy planning, right? It only takes a National Institute of Health controlling the budgets of major universities. You
Mhm.
don't do what they say, guess what? That library is not getting built next semester.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And I was just talking
Okay.
about that before. When it comes to research, there's always a bias or a pressure in it.
Amen. Money magnet, man, diamond heart frequency. We're talking 7 year cycles. So where I was going with that was, you layer the Bitcoin and the Wyckoff together, and we look at the run up to the crash. Do the same thing of the 7 year, and that's your hair stands on end again,
Mhm.
because you're going to see like the 93, 94 bond, treasury bond crash. You're going to see the gas in the 70s. You're going to see Vietnam. You're going to see World War I, World War II. You're going to see the stock market crash. You're going to see 9/11 and the dot-com crash. It's all on this. And the Shemitah, they're kind of subtly building to something. And then it's when the cycle is over, they say, okay, now we do whatever we're doing. Now we're all told as what the Talmud would say. Mm-hmm. And by the way, allow me to draw the distinction. This has nothing to do with the tribe of David whatsoever. And if I was to even say something stupid like I was in love with a woman and some of my best friends are, it really doesn't matter. Guys, what we're trying to get on here is this lunar cycle, number one. And number two, in this epoch, right here, right now, what are the adherents to which sects or wings are the adherents? Look, these people are as Jewish as sushi is Norwegian. I mean, really, you know, if Rothschild money built the ovens in Nuremberg, okay, really, how Jewish are they? Truly Jewish, common people Jewish.
Yeah, no, they're just operating off of Jewish symbolism.
Precisely. Mm-hmm. Funny story, Central Pennsylvania. This will blow your mind. The carpenter had clients once, very old people, extremely old. I would have to guess 95 and older, couple still alive. He was in a camp. Her last name was Rothschild. Blew my head off when I heard that, you know?
Yeah.
Who knows how far down the rabbit hole. But yeah, Shemitah's freaky. It truly is. And with the whole thing with the food distribution, you know, we saw the Suez Canal jammed up by one ship last year, which had a strange name that sent all kind of messaging. And then we see like, oh my gosh, not another. There were only 3 facilities that did that in the entire continental United States. And would you know, they all burned in consecutive weeks. My God.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's how we got the ammo thing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The central point of failure on ammunition was the primer. Mm-hmm. There were only 2 companies that did that at all, for Remington, for Ruger, for everybody. So when those 2 companies had accidents, the logjam right there.
So dangerous when you end up centralizing that much of your production.
We talked about it yesterday, right?
Yeah, but you know, I guess it's that type of thing where either people don't learn or it's intentional, one or the other. You know, you don't know. It could totally go either way, depending on the
I don't believe, I'm like a lot of us. When you get to a certain point of experience in all this, you start going, there are no accidents. Like, you know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah. No, definitely. And what amazes me is always we're under attack, you know, by these people throughout history, but especially lately, you see that they're doing it from all fronts, which to me means they're doing something bigger than ever. Because if you do it on all fronts, if one of those fronts fails, but then you have all the others still going, you know, like
you call them people though. You said those people.
What?
You gave them a lot of credit. You just said these people.
What do you mean, these lizards?
Yo, who knows? My God.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't. I think, you know, I tend to be of the belief that they're people, and that's all that we have in common. The fact that they're genetically human, but they're just pure evil.
I've moved around. I followed Mr. Ike down that rabbit hole back in the 90s. And then I hated him forever making me believe that. And then I was like aliens. And then I was like, oh, like everybody does, oh, the Greys. And then you're like, wait, no, the Greys are just us on a bad arm of the line, you know, the history track. And you just keep moving around. And then like, I think the last 7-8 years I've been in this thing where it's like, they have the ceremonies, okay? And you guys, I know on your show, you guys bring up CERN a lot. Which, by the way, that dark occult ceremony was such a silly, silly thing. When people were like, they're doing ceremonies at CERN out in the courtyard. Oh my God, that was such a setup. It was so fake. It was so fake.
Yeah, the courtyard one, but the opening, like, come on, man. You know,
oh yeah, no, that stuff. I agree.
Yeah.
But in any event, what I was saying was last 7 or 8 years, I think I'm fairly convinced that, you know, it's not mind blowing. There's multi-dimensional entities. Mm-hmm. Some of them hate the guts out of people, out of mortals. I'm trying not to say humans as much anymore. You'll notice I've learned I've learned how HU is a loaded term. I
Okay.
really have. Yeah, it's
Why is that?
basic. It's subdividing us based on the concentrations of our melanin, which is
Mhm.
fatuous. It's absolutely silly.
Okay.
I have
Gotcha.
North African blood in my Sicilian. Who gives a
Mhm.
shit, right? Well,
Yeah.
two. That's two.
But they want us, but they want, yeah, yeah, but they want that division. So it's,
Right,
yeah,
absolutely. It's
exactly. It's the
axiomatic. Kindergarten level Sun Tzu, divide and conquer. Indeed.
yeah. Everybody, by the way, should be reading Sun Tzu. Yeah, it reveals a lot about how the world works. But I just want to hop to what Boardwalk said. I'm a realtor and certified appraiser, worried about a bad crash coming because for 20 years I have always seen foreclosures bounce the market, but no foreclosures anywhere now. BlackRock buys them
Oh,
all. So talk
that's
about
so
the
trouble.
assaults on every single front. And this is the assault. This is the Agenda 21 Great Reset assault where you will own nothing and be happy. They want the corporations owning the entire housing market so that we are relying on them. I mean, okay, I already would argue we never actually get to own anything because we pay property taxes, but that's another story. At least we
Yes.
kind of can pretend to own the rights to something, but no, but this is scary.
At least we had
This is
one that was a semantics arrangement that made us feel a little better about
yeah,
ourselves.
exactly. You kind of it's almost like buying the rights to something, you know? So at least we kind of had some of the rights, you know, like if you buy digital rights or whatever. But I'm like, no, no, this is completely taking it out of our control. And it's disturbing. And everybody just acts like it's not happening. And I think it's so interesting, Boardwalk, that you are seeing it as an insider, as a realtor, because to us who aren't realtors, it's kind of mind blowing. But for you to be, you know, to really on the inside circuit, like
Yes,
you must
precisely.
be. It must. I would be freaking out, you know, constantly seeing this happen because it's already scary. But like they're coming in and buying for like 4 times worth the value, which is, you
Yeah,
know,
they just want to get it done. They just want to get it
yeah,
done. They do not care if it makes economic value sense. They just
no,
need to get it done.
which just goes to show that there's something bigger at play here because every
Mhm.
business wants to do something that makes sense for their bottom line, makes sense economically. And the fact that they're coming in and buying like that, that's going to take a long time to recoup their investment. So what is going on? Yeah. And
Precisely.
nobody wants
The
to
most
wake up to that.
insightful teachers in our communities will yeah, it's exactly, TT. The most insightful veterans in our communities will have recognized that you're not playing on the professional level. You're still in double A or triple A if you're thinking in terms of net gains,
Mhm.
because now we've transcended that. I explained the dynamic the other week of we will, with a grin on our face, having $90 trillion, kill your entire family, poison an entire ocean, chop down an entire forest. To what end? To make 90 trillion, 91 trillion. That doesn't make sense if we're thinking
Mhm.
holistically as hexagons do. So we have to understand this again butts up against the heart of darkness. Most people who are not evil people cannot comprehend the machinations or motivations of the heart of darkness, for they themselves are not evil people.
Yeah.
If you have a creative, intelligent mind, we used to go, well, you lack imagination. It's like open
Yeah.
yourself to what's possible and you'll get there. These are evil people. They
And then
get,
past the point, it's
yeah,
just denial. Even if people can wrap their heads around it, it's easier to put your head in the sand and pretend like it's not happening.
what skeeves you out. You're like, oh my God, they get erections and they get moist at your tears, at your suffering, at
Oh,
your
yeah, it's
fear,
like
like, whoa,
they find so much joy in it, and it's
weird.
like yeah, past the point, you know what it reminds me of? And I am like, I'm just getting into Harry Potter now as an adult, but like how Voldemort just lost his humanity over time. The more evil he got, the more evil he committed. It was like he wasn't human past a point.
Oh, you bring up something funny. If you're looking for my last name, I've never read that stuff, but I understand my last name's in those books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I am yeah, but it's you know, it's what we talk about, fantasy and science fiction reflecting realities on Earth, either intentional or accidentally, but it's something that really does open your mind to what is happening currently on this Earth. So I mean,
Mhm.
so really you could think of those people like Voldemort.
Man, we talked about that on my first appearance. I mean, I don't. Did I relate the Jordan Maxwell story about his friend that would walk up to Spielberg on set and like the Mossad agents that were
No,
protecting Spielberg.
I don't think
Oh
I've
my
heard that. Please
God.
tell
Like
me
the guy
that.
just saying, "Oh, hello, Mr. Spielberg. I'm so honored to meet you." And all of a sudden the men in black come out and the dude, like people blink and he's no longer there. And Spielberg's like just like eating his yogurt and reading his newspaper.
Mossad agents around Spielberg.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All these A-list people, there's something not right there. Gosh, this whole is it Anne H thing
Oh, they're so spooky.
is
Oh,
warped. It's so spooky when you start hearing that and putting the pieces together. Nothing about that is normal.
you know what you just made me think of?
What?
You remember when her girlfriend had that set on her show that was the entryway to Epstein's place? Is that
Yeah.
creepy or what,
Oh, I
man?
forgot. She had the same exact stripes
Yes,
as Epstein's
yes.
place.
Yeah, the gold and
Oh,
the blue. Ugh.
well, did you guys see the video of them asking Ellen what she thinks? Does she have any well wishes for Anne and like how freaking cold she was? It was like dark, like it wasn't like somebody who just like, oh, like somebody they don't like anymore because they broke up. No, no, no. Like Ellen's
Yeah,
reaction is dark.
yeah,
And I've
yeah.
heard
I
she's a
saw
pretty
Madonna the other week. She
oof.
went from being this one thing. She looks like a effing, I didn't swear. She looks like a effing blamage right now. Like there's something going on there. It's like a snowman without the contours or something. They
Oh
can't, I guess
yeah.
they're not getting their adrenochrome or something. It's like,
Well,
whoa.
yeah. You know what? I've seen the pictures of her in public versus
She
what
goes,
she's posting. It looks
oh,
very different. She's using some sort of really good filters. But let me tell you, man, I went to a Madonna show and I was so excited a few years ago. It was my first Madonna show. That lady kept us waiting for like hours. Gosh,
mhm.
talk about being full of yourself. How do you let, I mean, I'm sorry. Sometimes, I make people wait for me 15 minutes, but like, 1.5, 2 hours. I'm like, that's when you get so entitled. And her show wasn't even that amazing. I mean, it
Yeah,
was good, but it's like,
that stepped outside the realm of I have a lot of responsibilities, I'm overwhelmed, or maybe there's something personal going on. That steps into the master psychologist realm where she's now saying to you, you are a dog and you paid top dollar and now you will wait until you're completely uncomfortable for me. And then I'll make you wait a little bit more. And then I'll put
oh,
on a crappy show.
you know what? You are correct in that because you want to know what? Talk about treating us like the whatever. They
Uh,
also took our cell phones and locked them away too.
of
So we,
course.
had to wait there with no communication to the outside world.
Yeah, well, they were having a problem with the back tentacle suppression device that night. They were afraid every time she did
Right?
her thing came out, and they were like, "Oh my God, go get the phones."
Her scales were showing. Yeah. Yeah. And I talked to the guy next to me who was a huge Madonna fan. He's like, oh, this happens all the time. I'm like, oh, she leaves people waiting all the time. Lovely.
Mm.
And then it's like, she had to like, she finally sang one of her hits, Papa Don't Preach. And I was so freaking excited. And then she cuts it off halfway to turn it into a political statement. And I'm like, really? Really? And then everybody is like, it's so wonderful.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
A-list people attending these shows. So it was like, no wonder they're all in the that special sauce in their veins
Well,
harvested
yeah,
from.
it was Catherine Austin Fitz once again who I invoked as the forensics accountant when we were talking about Rumsfeld on 910 last time.
Mhm.
She says that she noticed the messaging in the crowds through psionic pulsing, okay, and that she was
Mhm.
there. She knew very clearly who she was, intellectually, what she stood for. She said within 20 minutes of seeing, oh God, who's the email guy? Who's probably the father of the kid who died from Lincoln Park? Who was the Clinton emails? Who was the Podesta? She said
Oh,
she was there. She was watching Podesta, and she said after 20 minutes, this great like beaming light of truth in our culture. She was going like John Podesta speaks the truth. This is a good man. She looked over to her friend Catherine Austin Fitz, and she said, "This is a good man." She said to her, she was like, "What the heck? Where did that come from?"
interesting.
Yeah,
Brainwashing. I mean, there is totally a way. I am
yo,
all for that I believe that there is a way to influence from the outside using frequencies and everything. And
yeah,
it's
walnut
pretty work.
sauce.
So you wonder what is going on at this concert because it's I love small intimate shows. I usually don't go to big shows like this, but it's like it was a more intimate show though at a Brooklyn opera house or whatever, band and Brooklyn, I forget, Brooklyn Academy of Music. And yeah, A-list people there, all
Well, I
those,
know people who played there.
what?
I know people who played the
Yeah,
Brooklyn
so it's
Academy.
that type of venue. So yeah, it makes you wonder what kind of messaging is happening in there, what kind of frequencies, what kind of spirituality is being carried in there. And I'm like, is it a good idea to even sit in that? Thankfully, I can only afford the cheap seats, so I was removed and I was up with the common folk upstairs.
Well, see, I don't even have to worry because I actually don't have enough of that North African melanin, and I do still have my junk. So I am like the lowest of the low on the social scale in those circles.
Oh,
So yuck. I
gotcha.
can't
Yeah, so
even get a
you'd be up
peanut
in the
gallery seat. Yeah.
you'd
Yeah.
be up in the rafters with me.
No, I
Yeah, I
wouldn't
think
even
I
be
had to do
allowed
a
in the
lottery to
door. I
get
wouldn't
that
even be
seat.
allowed in the door anymore.
I had to do a lottery to get in that seat. And Boardwalk is shocked. He's like, they took your phones. Okay, so like in New York, when certain things are being
What the
filmed,
hell?
or this was like, she didn't want this being filmed, it is a common practice. There's a specific company that comes in and locks away your phone in a magnetized case, hands you your phone back, and then you can only unlock it in specific areas. So it's not like completely unusual, but it was very odd for it to happen at like a concert, because usually they want you taking clips and posting it on social media. But this was, there's a lot of secrecy surrounding this concert, and they made it like it's supposed to be a special experience, and we don't want to spoil it for anybody. But like, you start to wonder, do they not want people to see who's in the audience? No idea.
I love
But
what Hex Max. Hex Mac is the best. By the way, Ash, that guy is just choice person in Hexico. Hex Mac is.
oh, awesome. So you guys are friends.
He's a transcendent individual. I mean, I have my top 100 core like hexicans.
Mhm.
Mac occupies a space where he's going to pretty persistently surprise me with a next level assessment of things.
Oh.
And then 9 times out of 10, it actually begs me to be a better person than I'm comfortable with being. So F you.
Oh, good to
Mac.
know. Hats off to Mac. Thank you for that
And
official.
he does it in a way that I don't want to choke him too. Like, cause most people who say, be positive, think, I'm like, oh, that's nice. But Mac, he's going to work with your higher intelligence to get you there. And he's not going to do that. Grass is always greener, idealistic poo-poo stuff. And I only swore twice. So,
You know what, it has it, the idealistic, stuff has its time and place, but some people are just over the top with positivity and this and that. Sometimes you have to be direct. I mean, Jesus flipped the tables in the temple. Everybody wants to make him like this, like neutered guy, but he
said,
was
I did not come to bring love. I came to bring the sword.
there you
I
go.
think about that all the
He was
time.
an intense guy.
I'm not even, I'm no longer in the sect. Okay. But I did all the studying, and that's actually an emphasis of what I brought for you today to share, just to show you that I didn't just like go to Buddhism or go to Sufism. Okay. And forget, because I had gone through the experience, like many of us, where my Catholicism had given me trauma, and I needed to find my way to that consciousness. And that's what it came down to for me, that keeps me studying it and reading it. It isn't so much the historicity, which a lot of people hold dear. I will acknowledge that. It is the idea that there is the highest, okay, that mortal could be, the Christ consciousness, okay. And that's highly attractive to me, not even from the standpoint of, I'm trying to attain that, because I think from one aspect, maybe this is transcendent. This is not, this is the, as you guys from your sect would say, the son of God. This isn't something that I could just be the best guy for years on end and all of a sudden I'm going to be there. That's not what I'm talking about. But this guy, Matthew Fox, I brought this up on stream now, man. I got 2 copies of this. So what I will do, look at that. I got 2 copies. I'll send you one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Matthew Fox, author of Original Blessing. Now, this was Franciscan? Dominican or Franciscan usually is what they are, right? Okay. He starts evoking the texture, okay, of the language, the Aramaic language, and says, okay, God, you're going to anthropomorphize it a little bit, okay? So why don't we just go on ahead all the way and talk to her? As soon as that came out of his mouth, man, the Vatican was like, peace, you're out of here. And he was like, all right. they interviewed him about it. I was just telling Brandon this. When he was interviewed after he was kicked out of the church, he said, well, he said, some interesting possibilities have opened on the romantic front. He's no longer in the priesthood. He
Okay,
went
so
over
he's
to be a Lutheran, and now he can do whatever.
yeah.
So this is good. I would love to hear your feedback on this. It might be, well, might be an angle of the study that you haven't approached, or maybe you have. I don't know.
Okay,
Very,
yeah,
very
that's a
valuable.
good suggestion. And I have to say the Franciscans and the Dominicans, they it's I find the different Catholic sects pretty interesting.
Oh my God. Yeah, some of them are downright terrifying.
Some are pretty, yeah, and some are pretty intense and some are just like so amazing. Like it's not shoot, what do they call it? The Daughters of St. Paul. I love these nuns called the Daughter of St. Paul. And they are like media nuns who are like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Let's use
Media nuns.
our benefit and
Nice.
everything. And it's really amazing how different each sect can be. And then the people like him who get themselves thrown out by the Vatican. Ooh, and the Vatican's another story. But before we go forward, Hex Hoddle wants you to explain what's on your walls.
I mean, some of it's my musical lineage, which is mostly what I would call real hip hop or organic hip hop or underground hip hop. But some of my spiritual is here. Like in Overbrook, Philadelphia, we had old rundown mansion that a teacher from Sri Lanka. Okay, now we're in the Muslim wheelhouse. This was Bawa Muhyiddin, blessed be his name. He was a Sufi mystic and master in Philadelphia. Now he passed 7-8 years before I ever went out there, okay, to pray and to read. But each person, okay, in that community that had spent time around this man, it's hard for me to describe, reverberated. I was in a room with the truth a lot. And I've seen that in other communities where there was an ascended master. Ascended master said, peace, I'm done with this journey. I got to move on. But everybody he touched, kissed, hugged, held a piece of that. I was going through some stuff. I tell my stories of how I was a ne'er-do-well, how I was a cowboy and carrying a gun, doing a lot of drugs, making a lot of money, spending a lot of money, music, poker, all of it. I went out there to Overbrook the one time. I picked up this man's hat and I'm, looking at it, tough guy. And oh my God, waterworks. I started bawling. Just a little knit hat. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, whoa, and the woman's like, she's like, oh my God, don't get boogers and on that hat, please. It was so funny, but it was, oh my God, it was one of those moments. Old dirty bastard, only member of Wu-Tang. I believe he was murdered. That was the famous food stamp card from the 36 chambers, or return to the 36 chambers, rather. I've got some, this is like, this isn't a swear word, but we're getting close. This is a Japanese tattoo of a tiger giving a geisha cunnilingus, but then over here we have the Buddha cross-legged. This this is, oh yeah, I should be careful. I say that it's not just the North African in my DNA, but it's the culture that I was in, that I was called the N-word by everybody I spent all my life with. So that's a cartoon that Schoolie D drew of me once, where he said something funny, we'll say. I don't think you can make it out. And then a lot of this is just like this is a good one. This is my my flyering, from when I was a professional musician and DJ. I was a producer. Okay, this would be, I was on with Luther on Official Pulsification, and we had 3 episodes of a show called the Writers Guild. We weren't quite sure how we were going to approach it, but I said to him at the beginning of the first episode, I said, you know what? I think that Taylor guy is the Hex writer. I'm a hell of a writer, but I'm actually Hex's articulator. And it is in that wheelhouse that I'm always thinking about etymology, right? So we called this night, right after 9/11, we called it La Bomba Congresa, the Bomb Congress, okay? Now, I don't know if you guys know, but in finance, all your words, your etymology of all your words comes from 3 places: water, astrotheology, and sex. That's everything is that. And I gain nothing by lying to you. The word commerce means copulate.
Mhm.
So when we say the bomb Congress, the ATF after 9/11 is going to think that we mean what? Terror against a government facility. That's not even remotely what these ones are saying. We're saying, what would be the dopest, freshest gathering of our friends, of our people that you could imagine? It would be like good sex. There they are. And there's Shiva, and they're creating the universe. They're creating the known universe, and they're coupling. Well, that's what we're doing, mimicking the fecundity of, right, as the yin and yang. And that's why we would call this the bomb Congress. And in the lotus, we have that image. Now, we probably didn't help our cause that some jackass who organized the event chose the literal font of the US dollar bill
Oh gosh.
on the B side of the flyer. And I guess I just doxed my entire music career. Wow. Well,
Well,
okay. Slow
um,
it down, pause it, you'll love it.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that was too much of a doxing. You have to really dig, you know? So, but thank you for sharing that
No,
with
it's pretty
us.
cool. Yeah, so
Um,
that's, I mean, I'm not going to go over all of it, but that's pretty much what it is. And then I have, you guys know Fela Kuti, the Nigerian Afrobeat musician, had 72 wives.
oh wow.
72 wives. Now, that was a cultural thing because he's rescuing a lot of these girls and giving them a really fantastic life as backing. Whoa. Kind of like the Rita Marley thing with Bob, right? Like she was part of the I3s. There were a bunch, and it was an economic arrangement. But
Mhm.
okay, look at these goddesses. Look at these resplendent, queens, and they would all get done up like this for the shows.
Oh wow.
The face painting was just, oh my God, miraculous. Now, as your typical modern, American pig, I'll look at this and say, how do you keep, even 5 of them happy? I was never even able to keep one of them happy. To which you could retort, well, maybe that's because you're an ignorant pig. And I would say, yeah. No, it's an amazing thing, and
Yeah.
they supported each other. These women, they move in a tribe of 72 and they love each other. They
Well,
help
that's
each other.
interesting. And it's interesting that you said it's a financial arrangement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So
So,
cool.
no, I wasn't familiar with him. And Russ wants to know, was he a prince?
Every Nigerian who ever came to America was. Fela Kuti, nah, him not gonna want to be none. No, man, I'll go down close. He was quite amazing, man. He stood for quite a lot, sociopolitically. His people were being forced to take the short end of the stick in a lot of those colonial
Mhm.
arrangements. So,
Yeah. Now I have
um,
that reminds me, I have kind of, like a hip hop question and how it ties into
uh-huh.
conspiracy theories. And I know that I don't know a lot about hip hop, but I know throughout hip hop history that there's been so many people that die under mysterious circumstances. And a lot of these artists have spoken out against the government and against different
Mhm.
organizations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think that's a conspiracy theory, or do you think it was like there was
Mm.
purposeful assassination happening
Okay.
in that
Yeah.
industry?
I
Yeah.
do know exactly the dynamic that you're talking about.
Mhm.
I see it so crisply and clearly that I could go down a list for you, and with confidence, I could say, yeah, no, yeah, no, no,
Okay,
yeah,
so it's
no.
yeah,
Um,
but
we
it's a
basically
possibility.
we basically hit this phenomena in the mid '90s, okay, and it was
Mhm,
precisely the advent of what was suddenly now a rejuvenation of an actual emotional, intellectual, edgy unit. Okay, because this is just pre De La Soul, pre Tribe Called Quest, and we have KRS-One, the teacher. Okay, Boogie Down Productions and Jungle Brothers now have just come on the scene, and I mean, it ends up, them guys are half of. I didn't say it, so only 2 swears, but they're questionable sexuality ultimately anyway, which is great, to each his own. But my point is they're no longer just shell top Adidas, snub nose 38s, Kangols, and fat Dookie change. We're starting to get, once again, in spite of their best efforts, into guys that are younger who want to live. and they want to ask some questions about life and about macrocosmic situations. This has never been good. This has never been good. And I don't care if you're purple. If you're my people were the coal crackers, okay? We were the ones who got paid in company dollars, could only spend at the company store, right? We died
Mhm.
down there. And then when we came up for air, I have a I've told the story several times. I had a great uncle who was shot and killed in the back of the head by a Pinkerton agent. Um, Different kind of slavery, okay? But it
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
there. Whenever you get that concentration of people and their mission is actually righteous because we're supposed to be sovereign, we're supposed to be autonomous, we're supposed to be free with the responsibilities of freedom, one of which is morality. You're
Mm.
only going to be as free in your culture as you are collectively moral.
Mhm.
This is true. Okay. I don't have time to do the whole thing. It's a 3-hour episode. Um, that's a problem. It's always going to be a problem because these are now the griots. These are righteous young warriors. I was talking in my live stream about my generation. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a survivor. I am actually
Mhm.
a rarity. Do you know what? They took us out with one wave and then a
Mhm.
second wave and then a third wave. And then when we were all torn up and depressed and sad and our backs hurt from doing physical labor, what they hit us with? Percocet, Vicodin,
Yeah.
Oxycontin,
Yeah.
Euphoria, Escape. Everybody I knew. So many dead.
Constant
So many
enslavement.
dead. My generation, rebels,
Mhm.
fighters, warriors, testosterone resistors, decimated. Decimated.
Mhm.
They approach each generation different. Now look at this generation.
Yeah,
Half the
it's
guys I
that's
run into
interesting.
are maybe girls. I don't even freaking know.
And it's interesting because you mentioned testosterone. There's a constant assault on
Oh
testosterone.
yeah.
It's dangerous, this dangerous chemical to them.
Mhm.
And and it just you always got to do the opposite of what they want because there's such an assault on testosterone in men that have normal testosterone levels.
Yeah.
Then what is the way to resist? By exercising the right way, doing those compound movements to bring it up,
Yeah.
eating in the right way, avoiding those things. Because it's interesting because people think resisting is always like a physical fight, against
Mhm.
something, but
But
no,
isn't
it
it
could be
funny
something
that
like that.
they seem like they recognize that distinction though? Because I know that as well as you. Like that's
Mhm.
only this much of the fight. But I
Yeah.
do find it interesting that they are so scared
Mhm.
that they can come in and push everybody around, but they don't want any guff. They don't want
Yeah.
one group of guys that are going to stand up and say, "Hey, hold up a fucking second." You're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
doing that. And that was three. You're not doing that to the women and the kids here. Okay. And if you
Mhm.
continue to do so, then we're going to have a conversation. Like they don't want that.
Yeah.
That shows you how spineless they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep
No,
it cracking home. That was 3 swears tonight.
it's interesting because it's hitting it from two different ways. Because if you have low T men, yeah, the men are going to be cowards and they're not going to stand up and protect everyone. But then on top of it, if you assault testosterone at young enough ages, then you end up with men that are smaller, weaker, that their bones and their muscles never fully developed, and then you have less of a formidable actual physical fighting force against that. That's interesting because they say that if you when you look at each generation in yearbooks and you say, wow, the people in high school looked so much older decades ago and now they don't. That's because like legit there's a measurable difference. And I just thought it was a way to kill people, a way to make people sicker. But then when I start thinking of, well, if you assault it young enough, their bodies, men's bodies, are going to develop differently and they're going to be easier to take down. It's interesting when you start looking at it from all those different angles.
I think Luther's here. Like he showed a film to us on
Mhm.
Twitter on 4th of July. And this is a perfect example, man. Like we do think in terms of the beta who's like overly concerned maybe with the curtains or his sweater on a certain day. And you're like, are you sure you have your priorities straight, brother? Like we
Yeah.
had this film of this guy who's being a little bit of a trickster and a jerk off, maybe irresponsible. Okay. And he's lighting off the fireworks and they have a misfire. And now this thing's going to ricochet. Now we're looking at potential major injuries.
Mhm.
This beta, oh my God, how about it, Luther? This guy in his Birkenstocks and his khaki shorts and his ironed, shirt on the 4th proceeds to run over like 2 4-year-olds trying to flee a problem that he created.
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there, I think like, God, all the people I know or that I respect, like I've been to parties where that stuff happens and the men are literally throwing their bodies in front of
Mhm.
people, like getting life altering scars. And there's no question. There's no question. So it's not like we're making this moral, heroic judgment. It's like, okay, that's what happens when the testosterone's there.
It's instinctual.
You don't have to
You know?
think about it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And like, and that's what I've grown up around. My, my grandparents, my dad, like growing up knowing that these men would protect you and that things are safe around them, knowing that my dad, even though he's a peaceful guy, but knowing that he could tear somebody's face off
Yeah.
because
If
he,
need be. Oh my
you know
God, we slept better. We slept better in the house at night.
exactly, you
Yeah.
feel safer, and to imagine that there's this whole generation of kids growing up that don't know that feeling, that don't know, that
Oh, wow.
you
I didn't even think of that. You just blew my head off there.
can you imagine? That, like,
They're
even
so
though you feel
disconcerting.
safe with your mom or your grandmas, you feel even safer when your grandpa's or your dad is around,
Oh my God. Everybody here, the chat, were you fortunate enough to ever have that feeling? I remember it. There was a certain distinct feeling when you knew that everybody was there. And it even
Yeah,
got better. Even when the helpless old people were there, it
yeah,
even got stronger. I was lucky.
mhm.
I did get to feel that a little bit.
Yeah, for
Wow.
sure. For sure. And to imagine that, you have this whole generation of betas everywhere in every
Broken
regard.
household.
The kids
Broken
will
household.
never know that. And then once you don't know that as a kid, it wipes it from the slate. The future generations going forward will never understand that. It's like a reprogramming it. You delete it.
Breaks my heart. You know,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
a good
disturbing.
dad. I have my kids. I protect them. I discipline them. I'm asked for advice about how I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'll give you my secret. But yeah, it absolutely breaks my
Mhm.
heart. This was like a lot are. This was a decision by her. Now I wasn't having a whole lot of fun. It was hell on earth, but for the sake of what we had done, I was willing to keep going because that was our sacred charge.
Mhm.
I can't even have a conversation. Hey, this one's showing talent in the healing arts. This one's showing talent in this. No, we can't even have that conversation. It breaks my heart because that would give them so much joy and pride. It's
Mhm.
unacceptable, frankly, but I can only do what I can do. So,
Well, yeah, it's a
uh,
hard situation when you
oh
have
yeah,
children.
and what am I? I'm not even a minority. It's disgusting.
Mhm. But you know what? I feel like, even if having two parents on the same page,
Mhm.
kids pick up on a lot. So even while they're spending different time at every parent's, they're gonna pick up on what you're instilling in them, even if you can't directly do it, just by leading by example.
Well,
You
the guys that I've been able to talk to, okay. Now you have to understand that the men around where I am, they are having to distinctly assert themselves because if you go an hour and a half that way, you're at Manhattan Island. And if you
Mhm,
go an hour and a half down there, you're in Philly. These guys are not that. So they said at some point, we are this, we are country, more woods, and we're going to
mhm,
project that image. We're going to embrace this type of music. And when we heard the youngsters coming around with that boom bap, we hated it. Okay. These guys are now asking me, having had the good fortune of living in all the environments. And I'm not just saying dipping my big toe in. I'm saying when I was in the ghetto, I was a block captain and I was in the ghetto. And when I was on the mountains, I was chopping my wood and going fishing and stuff. Okay. They want to know how come these kids, like what's going on? Everybody, those kids from that family, polite, compassionate, introspective, but fun and playful, kind, hold doors, but strong, all this
mhm,
stuff. I say, hey man, first off, it was never a deliberate thing. Okay. It was just, I'm just trying to do the best I know how to do. But all my boys, there's no question with my girl. She knows. Like I will throw my body into a super highway and they can run me over 1,000 times if I can avoid her ever having to suffer. It's pathetic.
mhm,
My boys have all been squarely taken at some point in their life by their arms strongly, made to have the eye contact. they're made to understand that they are loved so unconditionally and so strongly. And this is rare because my understanding is that the guys of my generation and a little younger, there's been an okey doke run on them that they believe that the harder you are, the more you deny the love, the more you're going to get the results that you want. And I'm trying to be that little voice in the wilderness to say, I'm in the process of raising 3 ass kickers, and they know compassion, they know empathy, and they know that they're loved at the end of the day. So
Yeah, people don't understand that you can balance the two.
yes,
That it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think that's one of the good things though to come, there's a lot of bad that comes with the progression of the generations, but there's a lot of good. Like I feel like the fact that fathers are more involved now than they were back then, and that it's okay for fathers to show affection and everything. So that's one of the good things. You might have more betas and everything, but there's always the balance. Now it's become more acceptable and more important for the role that fathers take, with their children, where maybe like in the 1950s, you had they believed that they had to be stern. Well, these are also a lot of
they're doing a lot of that out here now, then you've got the corollary. Like I was in the waters above, live stream with Archaics or all the guys that are in that cluster, and I got scolded by that community because I used the word. You have to be very careful about casting that aspersion of beta, and I'm like, well, I'm a Hexican, and over in Hexico, we're quite free with it.
Gosh, people get offended over everything. You can't use the word beta.
Hey, Ash.
Yeah.
You made $3 tonight, dear. We're going to keep building this for when you come on my show.
You've been very good. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I knew you had it in you.
Before we're done, I'm just going to let a litany go. I'm just going to take a $20 bill.
And then rugged. No, but it's sorry, Gen Hex is cracking me up. Peanut Beta.
He's the funniest. Gen Hex kills it. Oh my God, he's so funny.
Yeah.
He said we were going to have, what'd you say last week, Craig? You said we're going to have some peanut beta and jelly sandwiches.
I love it. Oh, I wish I could still eat peanut butter. Peanut beta. I love it. So you just wait. So is Gen Hex saying that the only value in betas is to grind them up and make them
Soylent Green. It's the beta.
It's people. So no, but it's amazing. Just it's like you don't know if you wanted to be careful and not offend everyone. You don't even know what offends people anymore.
There's a lot of landmines here.
Oof! I see people who work in certain industries that are constantly worried about what's offensive and what's not, and they think they're completely not offensive, but then it comes back in a circle. You become so non-offensive that you become offensive past the point.
I don't know. I just couldn't do it. I was like, if you want me to turn into that postal worker who fucking takes the 30-06 into the parking lot, I was like, I had to make this distinction early in my life. I was just like, I am not the guy cut out for that. Mm-hmm. I'd rather string together a similar amount of money working a whole bunch of different independent jobs, even 10 hours more a week, than do that 40 to 45 hour in the office, Carol, because I knew I'd snap. Oh, I knew it.
I'm not made for that either. Yeah. Definitely not. I cannot. I mean, and I have a sister who's into that, and she does that, but I'm like, I cannot. And because she likes the stability. She likes that stability of the money, and I'm like, I rather have less money and be happy, and just hard times. I love this. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. I love this.
What's that? A Churchillism, Brian? Sounds like a Churchillism.
It's such a cycle. And you see that at play today. Let's see, what stage are we in now? We are in the weak men created the hard times. We are at the beginning of the hard times. It's incredible. But thank you so much, Gen Hex. I really appreciate that.
Hey, Craig. Craig, this is for you, okay? In the gender thing. Hey, Craig, do you like my melons? They're fresh.
Melon. Sorry, I'm thinking now Nickelodeon jokes, which are apparently just as dark.
I've never grown cantaloupes. This is the first year I grew.
So those are yours.
Yeah, I grew them.
Oh, that is awesome! Congratulations on the cantaloupes.
Yeah.
And thank you again, Jen Hack. So paying the guilt fine because you can still eat peanut butter. I do miss it, but then you know what? I've been away from it for so long that now it just smells just nauseating. But but so are you insinuating that I should take my $5 and go buy some sunflower buns? Thank you so much. I really appreciate that kindness.
Hey, Ash, I'm going to step away for uno momento, if that's okay.
Sure. And I'm going to go chat with the chat.
Nice. And if you need a break, then just let me know. And
I am all good. Thank you.
Okay.
I had my potty break beforehand.
Mhm.
Offense is taken, not given. Ooh, that's a different way to put it. Offense is taken, not given. It's you know, those people, especially now, who are very soft and are offended at everything. Don't they say like Gen Z is offended with everything? It's a victim mentality. So yeah, offense is taken. You have to like make the intentional effort to take offense. Nobody can make you be offended. So I like that saying. Thank you, Luther. Someone said eat beta, not grasshoppers. Yeah. Well, you know what? I heard somebody saying that the chitin, you know, bugs are made up of chitin. That's what gives them their thick shell. That our body is not meant to process chitin, and that it causes health problems, which is interesting because they've supposedly have started sneaking like grasshopper protein and insect protein into the food under the guise of it being more sustainable. But obviously, like, you know, they're finding any way to kill us that they can. It's chitin causes problems in your body. So it's interesting, you know, what becomes revealed, but of course people don't want to wake up to. Oh, okay. So that is the guy who made that, who said that whole cycle, weak men create hard times. Okay. I never knew where that came from. So thank you. You know what? I guess it's reflecting nature. The fruit reflecting nature. Well, fruit is a part of nature. You know what I mean? Yeah, every time I see it, I always have to stop and admire it. I think I did post it to like Instagram stories once, and of course, all the normies can't appreciate it. So I don't do much with Instagram anymore. And then everybody on Instagram wants to take offense to things, and then people unfollow you, and then I don't have the patience for it. I used to be more into Instagram. Twitter is where it's at. Twitter is just outright chaotic. And I just love it. I love the insanity of Twitter. Bugs ain't plants, plant-based for life. You know what? And I do think like, yeah, they can sustain you over the short term, like if you're starving in the woods, but like so plants, you know, we know certain plants have plant defensive compounds and could cause toxicity issues if you eat something toxic. But I wonder, besides the fact that chitin is made to be like make up their hard shell and that doesn't do well in our bodies, do a lot of insects are toxin and secrete venoms and everything. So what I know that there are certain safe insects to eat, but how do we know that it's not a poisoning? So I guess it just comes back to that systematic poisoning over time and sickening in the population. Exoskeleton bug shells, highly concentrated gluten. Many people are allergic to gluten. Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. And I've also heard that people who can't eat shellfish also can't eat insects, which makes sense because shellfish are basically the insect of the ocean. So of course, you know, if you're allergic to one, you're going to be allergic to the other. I can't eat shellfish. I promise I wasn't always this weak in my food allergies before. It happened high school onward. And I think that comes from the poisoning of our food supply, you know, and I don't mean like, you know, to anybody who might be lurking on here. I don't mean that they're pouring arsenic into our food supplies, but you know, that our food supply is made to keep us fat, sick, and nearly dead, as the saying goes, like we talked about last night. Yeah, sneaking bugs. You know what? I went to New York Comic Con. I used to do that every year. And they had what is that? It's that sci-fi movie that got turned into a show about that train that goes around the world. Snowpiercer. So for Snowpiercer, they had a vending machine that vended for free like bug bars. And you know, it was just supposed to be a novelty, like, oh, look at this peanut butter and grasshopper bar, and you could eat it and everything. But it's amazing how these things then become a reality a few years later. And you look at that, and it's like, was that priming us for it? Yes, I understand that was a promo, but the promo was the promo because I guess that's what they were eating in Snowpiercer, because it's some sort of post-apocalyptic world, and the train that keeps moving around the world because it's the only place you could live. But I'm like, okay, were they trying to get us used to the idea of it? Because now they're sneaking it in many things. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the pictures on the internet. They don't look doctored of the ingredients list with that insect protein. Okay, so cockroach bars, that's another thing. I know you used to be able to go into certain stores and buy edible insects that were dry for fun. Like when I used to camp council, like volunteer camp council. I remember going into town, into one of the local stores and getting dried mealworms or whatever, and then bringing it to lunch for the kids, and they all got a kick out of it. Not that I was feeding it to them like a game, like Fear Factor. You guys gonna eat this? It was the fun counselor. So pointed to a huge red ant on your Thai mom's shirt and she ate it. Oh man, certain cultures have adapted to it, and it is a staple of their diets. And I know that they are fine, but I do believe in terms of adaptations for humans, there are certain cultures that digest certain things better than other cultures. So those of us who it's not a part of our history, it's not a part of our genetics, I can see where it could be a problem. But I guess those other cultures that have gotten used to it over the years, then I guess they're just tougher people than us. So are ants worse for you than, say, Twinkies? I would definitely say the Twinkies worse, right? But over time, like that, like kind of like tap water. Over time, drinking tap water is really terrible for you. It won't, you do it a few times, it won't mess with you, but over time, it has the potential to be not good for you. So I guess eventually the chitin in bugs, I don't know if it builds up in your body, but it has the potential to cause damage in your body. Yeah, so Snowpiercer was originally a movie and then it became a TV show. Yeah, everything is programming, right? That should be a bumper sticker. Everything is programming. So while we're waiting for Thothschild, any questions you want to ask him? Anything you want to throw out to him that we can ask him when he comes on, or any discussion points? Kind of left this free form because him and I can just we just kind of bounce off each other, and so I'd love to hear what you guys would like to ask or talk about. Is Snowpiercer still on, by the way? I don't know if that was canceled. Just like everything gets canceled. Oh, and Torrin, if you're still in here, so Torrin and I like to talk about Defiance a lot. Last night I watched the Plague episode, and man, watching that almost 10 years later, with everything that happened, very interesting. It's interesting, the representation of in the media of plagues and cures and lockdowns and quarantines and how they were portrayed back then and what they were trying to feed you about it, and then what ended up happening to us, and the mindsets that are involved in it. It's interesting to compare and contrast the two. Oh, Snowpiercer caused you to question the source of the meat you eat on occasion? You know what? I gotta watch the Snowpiercer. It's really, it sounds up my alley. So you spend a lot of time in Thailand and you steer clear of the bugs. So now, are bugs like a part of the cuisine too? Is it just like a thing, like, oh, like casually, like we'll eat bugs, or is it like is it a staple in Thailand? I'm curious about. Yeah, you know what? They make flour out of anything. Anything basically that you grind can be turned into a flour. So cricket flour is the way that, yeah, that they're introducing it into the products. Cricket jelly bars. Oh, okay. So that's what they did in Snowpiercer, because the promo that they were giving at Comic-Con was actually, now that you say jelly, I think it was a peanut butter jelly and cricket bar. I ended up giving it away to somebody. They did not eat it for many reasons. Never trusting grocery stores again. Here's the thing, like traditional grocery stores, and I'm not saying this in a hoity-toity way, is not something I'm familiar with shopping in, just because it's so overly processed. If you don't eat like that, then it's kind of useless to you for like a grocery store. And the amazing thing is, when you've removed yourself out of traditional grocery stores and you go back in, I am telling you, first of all, I'm puzzled when I go into grocery stores. I don't know where things are. And then it's also kind of puzzling because it's like, where is the real food? I mean, okay, the rule of thumb is basically on the outside, but I'm like, you start to realize that there is like no real food in grocery stores besides the conventionally grown produce. Uh, Southeast Asia, they eat everything. You know what? There's a lot of European cultures that eat everything too. It's I guess when you look at the history of it, you kind of look at their what they've had to deal with and how they've had to adapt. And it's interesting once you connect it to history and where that comes from, the eating everything. There's a joke that Italians eat everything, and that's why their oceans are decimated and why you don't see the same land mammals there, because they basically have kind of hunted and fished everything from just eating everything too. Okay, so you know exactly what I'm talking about with that Defiance episode. Oh, bowls of crickets. Okay, so it is just okay. It's not like that answers my question. Thank you. Love your garden even more now that you know about the bugs. So do you mean some free cricket protein in your garden? Oh yeah. When I've heard that there's like a certain with so many processed foods, there's like a certain acceptable contamination of things that could be in there. Not only bugs, even things like mercury contamination. Another reason to avoid processed foods. But like things like spices, especially like when they're gathering and drying the stuff, a lot of that stuff, like there's rats crawling through it too, and the bugs. So you're like getting bug parts and like rat droppings and things in those in that stuff. Better to stick with. That's why it's good to stick with local stuff.
Ew.
Even Whole Foods, does Whole Foods count? Well, there are some better grocery stores. I'm not familiar
Yeah.
with Whole Foods. I like to go to more independent ones, but I'm sure it's better in Whole Foods, though Whole Foods does have processed foods.
There was a guy who worked at the Kellogg's factory who told me that there's a ratio of rat turds that was allowed in the final inspection. And I was like,
Oh yeah,
wow.
I've heard that like even like there's a certain amount of mercury that's allowed in things too. It's
Yummy.
really insane, and that's why I love farm to table. I love local food because you know what you're getting. Yeah, okay, there might be a slug in your salad, but you pick it out and you move on. But that's the way to go, because you don't know how this stuff is being handled and what's going on in these factories and how dirty these factories actually know. So Oh, Anna Hopkins plays almost the same role in The Expanse. I still need to watch The Expanse. Her, you know what? And
She
then
looks
now
like she has a constant
circle.
constipation face. She's like,
Anna Hopkins?
Yeah.
Really? I have to think about
To
that.
me, she looks like she's perpetually constipated.
That's hilarious.
Guys
I
are
like
like,
the
she's
character.
hot.
And what?
Guys are like, she's hot.
I guess that's their thing. Is that their?
Who eats his own? Hey, Ash, I
Yeah.
sometimes try to do better about forking, right? We're forking
Uh-huh.
Ethereum. Sometimes I fork me and I forget to bring up stuff. So I'm back there talking with the kids and I thought of 3 points that I wanted to tie up earlier, things we talked about.
Oh yeah. Go right ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So you were talking about the giants and the giant fossil record when I was coming in. I wanted to point out to everyone, like, I don't know what kind of maybe mystics or counselors or priests or what, what the spectrum of people that we all like surround ourselves with to get other insights, right? I'm trying to nurture back my childhood reading. I don't know if you would call it Akashic record access. I have something like that. I had that when I was a child. I completely lost it. I've been kind of nurturing it back. So I looked at the suicide of Meriwether Lewis upon return from the Lewis and Clark thing. And then I had another verified remote viewer look at this. And he and I are in agreement that Thomas Jefferson's agents murdered Meriwether Lewis. Meriwether Lewis, more so than the military man Clark, could not handle what he saw when he went out there. Okay. I think we might have even talked before. We know that the Viking, the Norwegians, the Finns, the Swedes, and the Danes, they got through here and they got through the Great Lakes. Okay. Hence, you're going to have in the middle of freaking America suddenly tribes of blonde haired, blue eyed Indians. Now, that was like boosh. Okay. He couldn't really reconcile that.
Mhm.
When he got to the mounds that were pyramids around St. Louis and found, oh, I don't know, the 20-foot tall people, Meriwether Lewis was like, F this, I'm telling everybody. And they were like,
Mm.
no, you're actually not going to do that. And he said, fine, give me some opium. Cool. So he just went off the deep end. He's jabbering, telling anybody who will listen, I'm going to let the truth out. Jefferson, begrudgingly said, okay, we got to take care of this guy. So that's, to me, that's always, it was like this definitive moment in American history where they were like, look, giants or no giants? They were like, no giants. They were like, all right, yeah, you're right. No giants, kill them.
But what I don't understand, I understand like suppression of knowledge is a form of control, but
Yes.
what is the purpose of giants? Like, like why
This
do you
goes back to the age thing that we talked about. We
Yeah.
know not who we are.
Yeah.
At
Mhm.
every turn, if they can make us doubt, if they can make us think
Mhm.
we have no power, we have no lineage, we have no history, we have no
Oh,
knowledge, if they
it
can do
makes us
that at
more
every turn,
expendable.
they've taken our legs out from under us.
Gotcha. Yeah. It comes back to expendability too. So yeah, what's the purpose? Yeah, what's the of preserving this? We're just nothing. We're ants.
Well,
Gotcha.
and all the better, right, Ash? All the better that we should have them to rescue us and tell us what to do. Because we're
Yes,
not
we need
capable.
the overlords. Yeah. There we
Oh
go.
my God, drives me nuts. Second point, hip hop.
Mhm.
Um, there was a high level meeting in the 90s, okay, when that, what is going on here? Oh my God, I'm hearing my own voice. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. Yeah, it's my phone, YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Freaking A. Okay. So when this is problematic when KRS-One's coming out and saying my philosophy, here comes the teacher. They're like, no, no, no. Sell
Mhm.
crack, get women pregnant, kill each other. Yes. Here comes the teacher. I mean, come on, what is that? So they were like, look, we gotta, okay, I don't want to be so obvious as to cut this guy's brake lines, but could we please get a little money and attractiveness into what became, God bless Schoolie. I love Jesse. God bless him. But they were like, NWA, baby.
Mhm.
You know, B's ain't S, but H's and T's.
Mhm.
We need more of this,
Yeah.
and that's what they did. They had a high level meeting that the top 8 labels, like Tommy Boy was there. They were all there. They sat around a round table and there were executives who said, you people are disgusting. And they got up, they walked out of the meeting. How dare you do this to our beautiful art form? Those people never worked again. Never worked again. The ones who stayed on message, I will tell you something. You can find this in the historical record. There was, at the end, he had so many bids that he wasn't ever going to not have an ankle bracelet on.
Mhm.
Him at that age and younger is not taking it. At the end of his life, he's stuck to the couch. He's completely surveilled, if not by law enforcement, by one of his 15 wives. And if not by one of his 15 wives, then one of these very menschy accountant types, okay, that he's beholden to. This is
Mm.
no kind of life. This man's no longer a human. This guy who must have been 5'2", 120 pounds wet, walked up to this God warrior and talked to him like he was a piece of funk child. It makes me sick still to think about it. And I looked into Old Dirty's eyes, and there was powerlessness. There was
Mhm.
absolute powerlessness. And I thought, will you look at this dynamic? Like this right here is it. This is the dynamic. Done. Successful mission. I
Yeah.
mean, he would have picked that guy up and put him right through the window. Bye. No, he had him like a little doggy on a string on his pinky. It was just like, oh, my heart. So that's what I thought of. You were asking me about hip hop, and I do
Yeah.
believe that there was a definitive moment in history where they said, none of this betterment.
Yeah, and it's interesting because people who aren't too into hip hop, it's easy to look at that and dismiss it. Oh, these guys were into bad things, and of course, if you're doing a drug deal or this, you're gonna end up getting killed and this and that. But
Mhm.
so it's easy for people to end up dismissing these deaths. But really, when you start really looking into things, you're like something isn't right. You know, something isn't clicking, and it's unfortunate that all those deaths do get dismissed like that, and that um, but you know what? That's the way it is. We are programmed, we are trained from being in school onward not to question the narrative, not to think. So people are never going to realize these things that are right in front of them, the answers, the proof, within hip hop. People aren't going to realize or aren't even going to think about it. They're just going to dismiss it because that's
Well,
the way
here's
it
the
is.
thing that disappoints me, Ash. I think it's well within the power of your average country person or
Mhm.
suburbanite to do the soul work a little harder than we do, y'all been doing. Because I submersed myself in it to the point that I sweated it, I cried it, and I bled it. And you people can make these cast these aspersions from a distance. You put Luther, myself, and Jen Hex down there in that situation with those options. I'm sticking you. Yeah, we're all going to be sticking people up, and we will steal the dishes out of your kitchen to feed our little ones. Okay. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Hindu. I don't care if you're from Europe. I don't care where you're from. If you're in that situation and you're a real man, and even the way that the women act, these people, they're not animals. They're us. They're us. Okay. They're just in that situation. The failure. I tell people, oh, you can't imagine the heart of darkness. Fine. You don't want to go there? Fine. Okay. Do me a favor. Don't spare your imagination on that. I get a little tired. I get frankly, a little tired of the way people look down their nose at people that they're no better than. If you were in that situation, you probably wouldn't even make it. So show them respect, is what I say. Sorry, but I get emotional about that.
No, it's all right. And I notice there's a lot happening in Hex right now, and I'm so far removed from
Oh,
everything. And but I
okay.
know that there's something not good happening. And I don't know if this is like the division that happens as people start infighting because we're waiting too long, for things, or if this is something
Mhm.
different.
Yeah. It was ugly. 10:30 in the morning, I'm hearing, one Latin American man say to another Latin American man, you should be killed. If I'm not going to do it, somebody else is going to do it. And RG3, had to fly in and say, I don't care how justified you are. We are not talking like that to one another. And you're disgusting. So, no matter how righteous you are, get out of here. And it was hard because the guy who was throwing the threat, I never had a conversation with him in my life. The guy
Mhm.
who's accused of all the wrongdoing, you want to see my flyer from 2 days ago? He was supposed to be on my show. T Money
Yeah,
didn't show up.
he didn't show up.
No,
Hmm.
no. Rags did. And Rags and I did a hell of a show.
The
Um,
other guy.
but you could tell T Money was going through it. I got some pictures from where they were. And I mean, I'll tell you guys straight up, they were in the 11th hour session with the heavy hitters from all over the planet. Can you give us $250,000? I don't envy him, man. I don't envy him. It's just such an unfortunate situation because I've been here long enough to know how hard we've worked to cultivate our image and to fight the haters. And this kind of just fudge, man. It just drags us all back again, and it's like, oh
But
man.
even before this, there was a whole bunch of I've noticed stuff happening, a whole bunch of fighting and
Well,
drama, and I
I
think
was part of some of that. I will say this out loud. I was part of some of that, but here's the thing. I have the finger wagging hexicans. These are the people who are judging the people in the city. Okay. These are the people who are just, I want peace. I can't handle conflict. All
Mhm.
hexicans on principle should get along. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Bucktooth, have you ever thought about the contextual nuance of every situation? Maybe that's trifling. Maybe that's an unnecessary fight. Have you thought that maybe I'm taking umbrage with this guy, and this guy because they're disrespecting our community and our principles? The reason that I locked horns with the Joker and I held back for so long is because Wales and them said, do not engage him. The third time the Joker came after me, he found out who Thothschild was. What's he call himself today? Nick. Does he wear makeup? No. Is he in Mexico? Okay? That's me. Don't mess with me. Don't mess with Hexicans. Respect the principles. Some of these fights exist for a reason. Okay?
Mhm.
That's all I'll say on that.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
But you know what? But you know what's also interesting, and I don't, you still have a third point to go to, but I just wanted to add
Yes,
something
ma'am.
to that. With everything happening, within Hex and all this fighting and bad things happening, and like I said, I'm very removed from it. And I'm pretty oblivious to what goes on, but Hex has the potential. Hex uh, Pulse X has the potential to change so many lives. Like we always say, the biggest wealth transfer in the history of humanity from the elites to regular people. It has the potential for. So you know what? Of course, you're going to start getting all the forces of darkness and us getting pitted against each other and us fighting and trying to weaken this
You
because
see
it
that?
has
That's
the
good.
potential,
That's true. Yeah.
right, to free us and give us power. So you're going to start, you're going to come under attack and spiritual attack with it.
Hex, I can. Hex, we can.
Oh, did you make that?
No, but it was when the Philadelphia meetup, when I brought Crypto Sparbook and Freedom TV to Philly because they weren't going to stop. That was the pivot of my, little 5-minute speech. Simple. We
Oh,
can, I can, we can. And at no point in my life, I was sending out, and what I said was, and T Money loved it because he sampled it. I said, all my life I was sending out a signal and I wasn't getting the return call back. And this was making me depressed and making me feel like I was outside and I was different and that nobody understood me. And when I got to Hexico after I leveled up of my own and I came here, all of a sudden I would go yodelay hee hoo, and Ashley would go yodelay hee, and then I'd go yodelay hee hoo, and Gen Hex would go yodelay hee, and you're like, oh my God, I've waited all my life for a little bit of this, like, oh, thank God. Like before I died, I found a little bit, it's good.
mhm.
Very good.
And you know what? It's, I think also, I mean, okay, live streaming has always been a thing, but one of the good things to come out of the past 2 years is people being so much more familiar with it through what we've had to do, where things have switched online and things have switched to Zoom, where it's made people who are way more timid with this way more open to trying out live streaming and getting onto this. And it's been such an amazing way to connect with other people in the community. I never could have imagined that I would have been connecting with other people in this community in this way. It's been a really cool opportunity.
Your chat, this chat's awesome. Like Ace, he's going to cause me to swear. It's just the way he spelled my name. Guys, you do know what THOTS stands for, right? It's not the god Thoth or Thoth. It stands for that over there. Don't call me
Mhm.
Thoth. But he said I'm doing a good job not swearing. And then wait,
Well, the first time I saw your name, that's what I thought,
I know. I
that's
used to
what.
get so bent out of shape, and then I realized 60% of the people in this community call it that, so I let it go.
Mhm.
And then the other one was, it's always Gen Hex, the 1-2 punch, Gen Hex, and then it's now follows. Hey, I want dishes too. Geeks, man,
I love the chats.
they're
There's
great.
always
They're
something
great.
good going on in the chats. Um,
Oh my
but
god.
yeah. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away from your third point. So what was
Well,
your
no, it was just that I didn't know you from Eve, like at all. Like it was
mhm.
literally what Torin and Tin Top and T Bird and all these guys that were like, you two got to get together, okay? And it's like I'm learning about you, I'm getting to know you, and then I'm like, oh, okay, so she's like this, thinks this about this. Oh, she thinks this about this, and then I'm like, okay, she's a devotee of a faith, okay, and I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, that's cool. Like I can work with that. So I'm like going through all these books now. You've heard me say the truth can stand on its own, right? So as I'm in my mission to understand what the Christos, the Christ is, okay, and what they mean by all these terms that they put around it, I'm going to go everywhere in the search. So I showed you the creation spirituality stuff earlier. This is going to blow your head off because Neil Douglas Klotz, yeah, he was a student at the Institute of Creation Spirituality with excommunicated Matthew Fox. This man is a academic who's a master of dead languages. If your guy walked the face of the earth, which this woman says absolutely not. He didn't. This guy holds out that he did.
Mhm.
He said it would have been in Aramaic.
Mhm.
So let's do a little intellectual exercise. And this, Ashley, you're going to get this book. And I have to believe that your own faith might even like explode to new levels with this, because the nuance and texture of our Father, right, who art in heaven. This stuff, I was reading this in the early 90s. He's going to go through each stanza. Now, first off, texturally, you're going to love how this sounds, okay? Because our Father who art in heaven becomes Abundabwashmaya, okay? And then he's going to take you through that stanza. Abundabwashmaya, if it's our Father in who art in heaven, actually means, O birther, father, mother of the cosmos. You create all that moves in light. O thou, the breathing life of all, creator of the shimmering sound. Ooh, I love that, because it's the unification. It's that ground luminosity or resonance that I believe is coursing through everything. And it's why Thothschild has never been afraid of saying the bad word, God. Like, I'm not afraid of that word, because I believe in that. I believe in the shimmering sound that touches us. Get this. Our Father who art in heaven becomes respiration of all worlds. We hear you breathing in and out in silence. Source of sound in the roar and the whisper, in the breeze and in the whirlwind, we hear your name. Radiant one, you shine within us, outside us, even darkness shines when we remember. Name of names, our small identity unravels in you. And then you give it back as a lesson. This is wordless action, silent potency, where ears and eyes awaken, there heaven comes. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos. Abwunda Bwashmaya, are you kidding me?
You know what's really interesting about
Pretty
that?
cool.
If, with so many languages,
Yeah.
English pales in comparison in terms of expression to so many languages.
Oh,
Other
now you're
languages
getting in on something there,
have
right?
the ability. Well, I also know because my family speaks Italian, and there are certain things that don't translate, but that really apply to certain things. So I've been able to see that English sometimes is limited in our descriptions and of so when you listen to something in its original Aramaic, you see just like how much more it unravels, how much more there is to it.
I can send you the publishing house, title, author
Yeah,
if you
thank
like.
you.
I got
Yeah.
it used. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I got it used for like
Aramaic
$4.
is a fascinating language.
It
I
is.
had a pastor growing up that was I had studied it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I
oh,
love it. It's
sorry,
where I
you
came up
do.
with my DJ name, because it has that breathiness. The H, the AH is in a lot of those syllabic combinations. So
Mhm.
you're breathing, and it's like an involved process when you're actually uttering those sounds, more so than our nasal kind of English, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. And I have a question about that. But before I do, YouTube says it's bedtime over there. But thank you for popping in, and you have a good night. Bedtime at 4:41. That is a late bedtime. um, so you have this familiarity with Aramaic. So did you study Hebrew growing up? Did you go to Hebrew school? Where
No, I think you and I are actually getting to another interesting fact. I think you and I are kind of sharing lineage, because I've
Mhm.
heard you say Scottish. I'm Scottish. I'm Siciliano, so I don't know if you're Calabrese or Siciliano.
Sorry, you did mention Sicilian before. My family's from Campania.
Okay, okay. So
Mhm.
yeah, we both have like that. Um, I have I have like mom and dad both have an arm, the minority arm that might be like blue blood ish, but
Mhm.
everybody else is salt of the earth. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Everybody else is like rebel level. Um, James Davidge would have been, his mom was a Kent. So we're not sure about Kent. You know what Kent is. And then My name on the dad's side, do you know that in English it means the exact same thing as Rockefeller in German?
Oh, really?
It basically means a piece of land that has grain on it, is what it
Mhm.
means, you know. Um,
Speaking of Rockefeller, by the
mhm.
way, the hidden symbolism, I was thinking about that today in Rockefeller Center. Have you ever explored that?
No, Tin Top's right.
What?
Tin Top's right.
Oh, Tin Top. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I guess that's why it's like the basically the world language still, because having the or at least once upon a time the American dollar was the money of commerce. The
Mhm.
language just goes along with it too.
You know what's interesting? You remember how I said the three sources, okay? And we're always going to be talking astrotheology,
Mhm.
water or maritime, and sex. And they're completely hooked on us as the Borg because they cannot be creative. They
Mhm.
can't be fecund. They cannot um, participate in an ongoing creation. All they can do is mimic. So that's
Mhm.
why when they're constructing the right lexicon or verbiage for this invisible slave system, they're like, they can have sex, you know. Well we're just going to call everything sex, you know. It's like because they're like broke. They're like looking at us and like jealous and like, oh my god, that we could create. And you're right, Brian. Goodness gracious, that is fecundity in code, is it not? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, I mean, we
well
definitely are into
said.
something
Well
special.
said.
We know it, and that's why people mock it. People mock what they don't understand.
True.
You know, that's why they want to call us scammers or
Mm.
shillers or whatever. It's that type
Hey,
of
thank God with what happened this morning, man. At least that's still something they can't say. If one guy messed up organizing a conference, they still can't say that we got hacked, we had downtime, or all the wallets lost, you know, their money or their assets. Like, thank goodness for that.
yeah,
Um,
everything is still up and running.
so
So
these
it's
last two books then are going to be like more on the apophatic, okay, or denial side. These are celebration side books. Um, Shira S, code name for a very widely respected archaeologist, not a believer and angry about it. This
Mhm,
was D.M. Murdoch. She's going to take you on a journey through the record. She's going
mhm,
to say, if this guy is here doing what he did, and she'll show you, how could they be talking about this in this time? How could they be talking about this guy and this guy and this guy and this occurrence and this happening? But apparently, there's this wonder wizard guy running around, and there's literally nothing. There's nothing. There's like one historian, which would indicate, what would it indicate? It would indicate that this is now going to be a plant from an ancient religion where Mary is Ishtar and Ishtar is Mary. You know what I mean? And Tammuz is Jesus, you know? And it's just going to be that whole Joseph Campbell take on things. Um, this is a goosebump book that she wrote. I struggle with it because I've had people, I know their whole lives hinge on the historical Jesus and I want them
mhm.
to be happy. But I read this and I'm just like, I'm not sure if it matters, is where I end up. But that's just personal for me. Like
Yeah,
maybe I could have a relationship with the Christ,
mhm.
but not have any truck with this revolutionary in Jerusalem from Bethlehem around this time. You know what I mean? It's tough because you can't have these conversations with some people. Some people will get very offended and freaked out, and they're just, you know. So it's
Yeah.
crazy. I say if the truth is the truth. The truth is tough enough to withstand the
Well, and I
barrage.
think also sometimes if you haven't like, had that direct experience, it's hard to understand, that direct communion with God, with
Yeah.
Christ. People find it hard to grasp it.
Okay, I
Then
see
you
what you're saying. You're saying it's a real time dynamic thing, is what you're
Well,
saying.
you have to sometimes people don't understand until you finally have that personal experience. So, this author, and she's trying to say, well, maybe he wasn't real or wasn't a historical figure. I feel like, well, because she's never had that personal relationship, with him.
Uh,
And until that happens, sometimes things don't click on. You just have to experience it, and then everything falls into place and
uh,
everything makes sense for
yeah,
a lot
but
of
you know what
people.
she does do is she's going to go through the thing that we would see. Did you see Zeitgeist or any Joseph Campbell in your life?
I
So
don't
you're
think
going to see
so.
the charts. The charts. This is an example of the charts, okay, that they draw. Dionysus, okay, was born of a virgin on December 25th. He
Mhm.
was called the Holy Child. And he was placed in a manger. Dionysus was a traveling teacher who performed miracles. He rode a triumphal procession on an ass. He was a sacred king killed and eaten in a Eucharistic ritual for, here's the word, fecundity and purification. Dionysus rose from the dead on March 25th. He was called the god of the vine. He turned water into wine. He was called the king of kings and the god of gods. Okay. He was considered the only begotten son, savior, redeemer, sin bearer, anointed one, and the Alpha and Omega, identified as the ram or lamb. His sacrificial title of Dendrites, or young man of the tree. His initiates say he was hung on the tree and crucified. So this is just one. She goes through 30, okay, of these various traditions from all the epochs. And it's like,
Mhm.
you got your superhero God man, you got your woman, mommy, Virgin Mary lady, you know, you got dad who has nothing to do with the thing here. And then you got that dad who's the dad, you know, uh, occurring over and over and over again. It makes the mind do backflips. Which came
Yeah.
first, the chicken
But
or the egg?
that actually links up to something you said. So something else that you said is, you have these powers in the world, these dark forces
Mm-hmm.
that they cannot create, so they
Yeah,
will do imitations of things. And I think it also comes back to that type of thing.
there
The
you
dark
go.
realms, because they can't create, will do imitations of good. We'll do imitations of God. So let's say around God's throne, it's said that there's lightning around
Mhm.
his throne.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing. That's electricity being used in a good way. And there are also people on the opposite side of it that say, okay, well, the demonic is also connected to electricity. Satan fell from heaven as the appearance of lightning.
Oh,
When
yeah, yeah,
Lucifer was
Lucifer,
cast out of
right,
heaven.
yeah.
So, everything always kind of has its opposite that happens. It's the imitation of the divine.
Okay, I feel you.
Yeah, so that's how I look at it. That's why those things line up. There is the imitation of the divine, and you also have people bringing Christianity into their cultures. Like the pagan Roman culture, when they adopted Christian beliefs, they kind of wanted to bring that into what they already did and what they already created. It was the merging of cultures, the
Okay,
melting
that's where I, like, get this resonance with this Hermeticism, and as I
pot.
was learning about it, I was like, "What this weird thing?" And then it just, you learn enough and you're like, "Oh my god, here it is. The clash of the two worlds." Something I saw when I was in Taos, New Mexico. It's like, "Oh my god, the Spaniards are slamming headlong into these Plains Indians who are slamming headlong into these Europeans." And oh my God, what a soup! What a stew! In Hermeticism, same deal, except we're talking about Egypt and we're talking about Alexandrian forces from Macedonia bringing Greek influence. There it is. A new thing is now created. Gnosticism, Hermeticism, Alexandria.
Hmm.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Wait, no, 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 but I just want to back up. You said something you witnessed in Taos, Mexico.
I had some pretty wild experiences. I felt like I was on a different planet for sure.
Oh, so can you would you be able to share one of those?
I mean, yeah, I mean, whatever's not personal, I'll tell you, you become used to, you and I, we're
Yeah.
temperate, we're temperate deciduous forest from the Northeast. So you go out there, we get used to a color palette. Ash,
Yes,
you
for
and I
sure.
are both kind of used to our color palette of our geography. I'm here to tell you, man, like now will tell you. He's in Arizona. He's got a completely different color palette. In the angel fire, blood, what are they called? The sangre de whatever, the blood of Christ mountains, and the angel fire area, the ring of fire, they call it up there. As a Northeasterner, I wasn't really like ready for that color palette. And when you hit it at dusk or at dawn, you're like, holy cow, I'm on Venus right now. Because the sage is like purple, but it's like electric purple. And the greens are like limes. And oh my God, the streams are different colors than our streams, and it's just like the whole thing's a little much.
Mhm.
And you also have the highest concentration of differing climatological zones in the smallest area as you go from lowland, what do you call it, desert, right, to the mountains. So you'll literally see 6 different sets of animals, 6 different sets of your trees and bushes, and down here you got cactus, then you got your brush, and then you go up a little more, and you literally going to see like barberry or something. It's really wild, really wild. The
Yeah.
rest of it's kind of personal.
Oh, no, it's all right. I thought you meant you were like, oh, I saw a UFO, fly
No,
over.
the only one of those I ever saw was around here.
Okay, the only thing. So do you
Yeah,
believe in that?
it was no big deal because it was so brief.
Uh-huh.
It's just your timing is weird because you think about your eyes, what they can see, and the sky. And I
Yeah.
literally was with somebody else, and we went at the same time. One of those,
Yeah.
and it was a silver dollar
Okay.
flipping. Oh, it was
Ooh.
going whib, 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 and it had a green, and I'm like, the F, and they were like, the F. Did you just? And they're like, no, I didn't just see. And for days we're like, did we just see something? It's that quick, unexpected, and subtle that sometimes you're just like you're not sure what you just experienced. That's what
Mhm.
I noticed.
Now, what do you make of it? Do you think they're from other planets? Do you think?
I'm one of those that's going to go first to black budget projects,
Mm-hmm.
hidden technologies, the where possible controllers or pilots are going to be Homo sapien type things.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, I believe that drones have been flown through this dimension since before the Civil War. They saw it. That the Middle Ages,
Yeah.
there were craft flown around and through. The other thing that I'm going to allow for, in my observation, I'm once again, Ash, I'm going to go back to dimensionality as
Okay.
opposed to far distances.
Yes.
I'm going to go for the gate theory, because from my understanding, okay, I'll tell you exactly how it works. Mom didn't leave. Mom's right here. She's never left my side. It's just that I'm on 1610
Mm.
FM and she's on 1580.
Gotcha.
She's literally right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
because I'm like talking to myself all the time. I'm not talking to myself. Karen's here.
Yeah. Now, is that where Stargates come into play? Now, is
Yeah,
Stargate
maybe. I don't know.
okay? Because
Mm.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around what people believe Stargates are.
If you were to take the tack that I just invoked a little while ago of everything's got to be just beyond us, it's better
Mhm.
than us. We need science to understand that, or people of authority. If you strip it of all of that, I sometimes get this feeling that everything is just made like more complicated than it needs to be. Like it's literally accessible to all of us. And CERN it's not even necessary. Like you and I, with enough intent, single pointed focus, wherever there shall be two or more gathered in my name, what's going down, right?
Yeah.
That's the dynamic. And I believe that. And I'm not even a traditional, say, per se Christian. And I still know that that's true in the core of my soul.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that that there is that people want to jump immediately to the idea of people from outer space because that's all they can comprehend, one
Mhm.
dimension, one plane of existence.
Yeah.
So
And how
that's
could we get there? You and I could never get there because we need oh my God, we need the breathing stuff and the thrusters. And it's impossible, like,
Mhm.
maybe not.
But yeah, so I mean, so if you think about it, that's a cop out in a way. It's the easiest thing to just say,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's from another planet." You know,
Right. Right.
it's much harder to wrap your head around the idea of being interdimensional, or people from other planes of reality, other realms, other parallel worlds. Um, or if you want to go to good and evil, or even the demonic realm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So.
That I've noticed this is something that we'll talk about and build on, maybe even in private before we bring it to the people. I do
Mhm.
want to talk to you about that. I want to learn more about your understanding. Um, and I'm not invalidating it. I want to learn more about it because I've noticed that you have a an awareness and a hypersensitivity that in this incarnation we can inadvertently open ourselves up, I think is the way you say it, to lots of
Yeah. It's like a back
bad,
door.
lots of, yeah, attack and such. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
Oh yeah, yeah. So we'll discuss it sometime and then bring it onto a show. Is that what you mean? Or
yeah.
just yeah.
What's a fella got to do around here to have a conversation with you? I got you 36 messages out to you.
I know I'm the worst. I'm terrible.
It's okay. I got a lot of people like that.
Yeah, no, no,
But we
no. I
should
get
make an
home,
appointment. We should make an appointment one of these days. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying.
one of these days because I get home late and then I'm just
Mhm.
exhausted. I can't
Ugh.
function.
Oh, that's the worst.
Um, yeah. So no,
Me
but
and Rags are
definitely.
talking about that.
Sorry, what?
Me and Rags talk about that, and me and Kinetics talk about that as a dynamic of disempowering our
Mhm.
men and our women.
Mm,
That dynamic right there. What are
yeah.
you going to have left? The crack ass of your day. You're getting ready. You have to do it. You have to do things in order. You have to do them quick. You got to get there. You got to do the thing. You get done. 18 ways to Sunday. You're like, F this. I am eating some ice cream. I'm watching some mindless stuff. Next thing you know, you passed out and you're doing wash, rinse, repeat. Like,
It's to keep us unproductive because imagine if we had that energy and that productiveness, what we can get done. And so it's
mhm,
like Netflix. It's they throw the constant distractions at us. And what's very interesting is these past 2 years, with everything that's happened,
mhm,
it's almost like it purposely reprogrammed our behavior and our body clocks too, because I find that I'm way more tired earlier. I used to be a night owl. I can hang around with people late and still be functional, and I get tired so much earlier. And my friend had said it. She's like, you know what, same thing with me. And she was a night owl, night shift type of person. And
mhm.
she's like, I think the whole part of the lockdowns and and
Mhm.
everything, even when everything opened back up, everything
Oh,
closing down early
wow.
was an intentional thing to reset
Oh,
our
wow.
clocks. It's part of the
Yes.
great reset in a way.
Yes. Yes. They want you at home more. They want you where they can keep track of you. They can control the inputs. Um, I had a freaky thought, about the intimacy of men and women and our
Mhm.
connection and our closeness. What what does that look like if, say, right before you're joining every night you're watching that series
Mhm.
and then you're like engaging in your togetherness. It's like you've literally just reduced your entire act of the screenwriters of that series and the flavor of whatever it is whoa, excuse me, of whatever message they're delivering. You're no longer the combining of you. Oh my God, it infuriates me. I'm like, it literally makes me want to run into the woods. You know what I
And
mean?
what? I'm sorry to interrupt, but a
No,
connection
please.
I'm making in acting, there's something we call diffusing your emotions.
Hmm.
You have to have these raw primal emotions when you come into acting. And if you're not careful, if you're listening to music, if you are letting your emotions out too soon or doing something to alter your emotions, you're not going to have it for the scene that happens. So when
Oh,
you put it
wow.
that way, that's
Okay.
interesting. They are diffusing our emotions. They're pulling it out of us. They're finding ways to zombify us in a way. It's like a sedation.
Did you had something really fascinating. It was a comment, and it was one of your people said a relative went to a death metal concert or something. There was a black ritual, and
Oh,
something
yeah.
jumped onto the back of one of the guys and didn't leave him alone
Mhm.
for a very long time. Like, oh,
Definitely
gosh.
said that.
Yeah, that's
Ooh,
wild.
that was wild, and I totally believe that, like, sometimes you don't realize that something is a ritual in and of itself, and I believe that there are certain programs on TV that are rituals that are bringing it into your house. Not necessarily fictional programs, but even, like, I don't know, it could be anything, but there was, and I had used an example in the past of the show called Hellier, and it seemed like a pretty cool show that it was investigating Kentucky goblins, and I had stopped watching sometime during the first
Hmm.
season. I never got around to finishing, but I enjoyed what I had seen before.
Hmm.
But as they had gotten into the second season, they started doing specific rituals. And they were explaining our hope is that with the audience, it becomes a ritual with you too. So almost like it's bringing it into
Wow,
your
they just
house.
said it. Okay.
So they blatantly said it, and people were
Wow.
reporting online, oh my gosh, the stuff from the show is happening in my house. The balloons that had the symbolism in the documentary are now I'm seeing in my everyday life. So it's like,
You see, you
whoa.
see, do you see? People think clutter, crazy, right? This guy, crazy. Do you see what I'm doing? How much intent there is actually in my life? Like I'm casting my spells all the time to counter that. Guess what else? I never got COVID. I don't even know anybody in my near orbit who ever got COVID. Guess what? We can't get COVID. Just like you can't sick us with a lot of the stuff that you sick on a lot of other people and sticks to them. Now, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I'm so highfalutin, but guess what? I am powerful and I make sure I stay like on top of that. I'll get home from some stuff I don't like to do and I'll put on the music that I need. And it might be the kind of music that like makes some people uncomfortable, but guess what? Do you ever go to an Asian culture and they're going to where the ghosts are and they're going dang, 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 they're scaring the ghosts away. I mean, look at all this. You're telling me you're going to do a psionic attack on me with Fela Cootie's wives and the old dirty bastard and Miles Davis and the Buddha and Jay Dilla watching over me. No, you're not.
Oh, and I do believe that environment definitely plays a huge role because there are certain things in your environment that will invite certain things in, and there were certain things that will repel certain things.
Yeah, I got to get a picture of Richard Hart. That's one thing that I like about Hexo.
I'm surprised you don't already have him up in your environment.
I gotta get Richard Hart up on the wall for sure.
Yeah.
I just got to get him before the outrage marketing.
Before the outrage marketing. Okay, so before those tracksuits that everybody hates.
Some of those are cool, but when I see my man in the moon boots or the flip flops walking a little daintier than I'm used to ever seeing Richard, you watch Richard in a live stream from 2017 or 2018. There's obviously now a gay man in the chat, and this is all new to him. And he wants to inquire, what's up? What's up with you guys? What's up with him? And Richard goes, there's somebody in the chat asking if I know anything about homosexual activity. He pauses. He says, sir, how would I know anything about homosexual activity when all my life, all I've ever done is hit dudes? The only physical contact I've ever had with dudes is punching dudes. This is Richard, like in 2018.
Oh, that's
it was the same episode that so he says that, Richard does. Shortly thereafter, somebody starts fishing for Richard's feelings on him having a 16-year-old girlfriend. Richard pauses and he's like, dude, there's something fundamentally broken about you.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
I was like, I love this guy, man.
There's no dancing around it, which is, I mean, I am of the same mindset.
Yeah.
What goes on? What can you possibly have in common? Grown man and a 16-year-old girl.
Oh, he knew. It was like, you look at him and he's like, I say all the time now, I'm like, I know who I am. And it's said in a lot of hip hop songs from my generation. I know who I am. Like Richard, I look at him and I think that's a man who is saying, I know who I am. Like, I don't even have to pause. Like, you ask me certain things, it's automatic. It's like, in me, I'm going to give it to you. So,
yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, he. I have to say, he's a pretty interesting guy. I just can't get into some of the outrage marketing, some of the outfits. I'm also not too into some of the crypto.
Oh, yay!
What?
The pee-pee. We all needed the pee-pee.
Yeah, no, that was like, okay, come on. Like, it kind of. I feel like I am of the mindset, let's kind of elevate Hex and make it a little more professional. So I'm like, it's kind of a bummer to see that, because maybe that's my taste. I don't like crypto bro culture, so
okay,
yeah. So when I see it getting into that territory, I'm like, ugh, it's just so, I don't know, it just seems like dumb. It seems high school.
See, Ashley, this is something I haven't been very shy about, and it's something like, it's why I was like writing you, because I saw that there was like potential for your growth and acceptance in this community. But then I also think that me and some of the other guys saw that you were missing some like very basic information that you really needed to know.
Mm-hmm.
Like you needed to know that it's Balliet brand. You needed to know that this guy and this guy are aligned with this kind of wing of the party or whatever, but this guy and this guy are aligned with this part of the wing of the party. You're talking about this coin that this guy's bringing out. But this guy and this guy wanted to tell you that we looked at the blockchain, and the last 2 times that guy did something like this, he rugged on the entire community. So like, it's like, oh, we like Ashley. Okay, now we want her to get like all the alpha as quickly as possible so that she's like right there with us, you know?
I
So
just don't remember what coin because I don't talk about any other coins.
who's here? How many people are here?
We have 21 people here.
21. There's bound to be a couple that would be offended, but the boys know who I'm talking about. They know what I'm talking about. I'll tell you in the green. I'll tell you in the green room.
You what?
I'll tell you in the green room.
Okay, but here's the thing, and just and I think it should be obvious to everybody. I'm not. I love this community, but I'm not super entrenched in the culture of it. So I can do things that are oblivious. I don't know who's aligned with who. I'm just like, oh, this person's nice. Hey, this person's friendly.
For me, it's helped me traverse the territory and maybe be able to discern where good information is, not waste my time. There's one thing that I can't stand, and you're Northeast, you might be like me. I don't like being gassed up. Do you know what I mean when I say that? I don't like people gassing me up. Like, oh, you're awesome. You're awesome. Oh my God, you're so cool. You're so cool. Okay, cool. It's time for the rubber to meet the road. It's time to go to war, and you're like, where you at? You just got done gassing me up. Oh yeah, that was just gas. It was just ether. I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, why you waste my time, man? Like, I cannot stand being gassed up. I hate it. It's so fake to me. So like, that's where I found value. Who's being genuine? Who's being authentic? Yeah. And who's just saying some S that because it sounds good. You know what I mean? It's like,
gotcha. Yeah.
That's big.
I guess
for me,
pretty
anyway.
Detached from all of it. And you know what? And I think when I do make what's perceived as a false move, within the community or bad move within the community, I think most people understand that I'm coming from that detached.
We're like, oh my God.
And I have no idea what's going on. I'm oblivious to it all, So I hope and I think people.
These are good guys. These are good guys. These are good people that you have.
No, I love everybody in my chat. Everybody in my chat is awesome, and I'm sorry, guys, I've been neglecting the chat a bit.
But Hex Trafficker, Luther. These guys. Chief. Yeah, these guys are great. God Almighty.
And I am. I was just looking. I'm big into Blippy Coin. Is that guy that poops on people? Blippy.
What?
Okay, because I was just seeing everybody talk about this guy that's like this kid show guy named Blippy, and then it was
I heard the gas is terrible. Waka waka. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know. So just kind of I just kind of go about figure things out as I go, and I like being a little detached, but
nobody gasses me up. What the fuck?
Oh, so wait, let's gas him up. No, gassing sounds fake. But we do love you, Jen Hex. That's legit.
Oh, he's one of the wittiest people in Hexaco. I tell him all the time. In fact, I even tagged him in a suggestively gay post the other day. And, he's like, what are you doing that for? And I was like, it's because you're funny.
I didn't see what was happening on.
It was my shirtless thing. All the guys in Hexaco are so turned on by me shirtless that they're all like, oh, I can't unsee that. Oh, hunky Thothschild. I was like, you dudes, man, y'all love it, man.
But what do they say about the gym? They say, guys go and they get complimented not by the women, by the other men. Hey, how did you do that? That looks good,
Yeah, but the retweeting was all done by the females. I look the way I do because I work hard. I don't lift weights.
Oh yeah. You know what that's the gym is the replacement for working hard. We have to have the gyms because manual labor is such a thing is kind of a thing that's dying. And you know what I have to say? I volunteered on an organic farm this week and I liked that I had fun doing it. I don't want to have my own farm, but to do
that's a lot of work.
I'm like, oh, physical labor is way more pleasant than being at a desk.
Yeah, and I'm not like all or nothing. Like I think the gym's cool. I think working hard's cool. I can see it. I'm not trying to be an orthodox.
No, it's just it's there's nothing wrong with being in the gym. It is important, but it evolved as a replacement for physical labor as we've become more of a desk society. People still need that way to work out and need that.
That's like reminds me of were we talking about this last week? The commercial for the reality goggles where the guy had a pair of goggles and he took the lenses out and he does this infomercial. Buy the new reality goggles, and he's literally like going around the forest, and he's like comes up to a tree, and he's like,
No,
oh,
no, this
oh,
is
and
new
he's
to me.
like
I love
touching
it.
the
Yeah.
tree.
Oh, that's funny. No, I haven't
He's
seen
like, oh
it,
my
and
god, it's
I
so
don't think
real.
I
It's like
heard
a
the
different
conversation.
universe.
And oh, and Hex Luthor did answer my question before, so it's a hexologist meme. I missed out on the meme.
Oh.
My brain immediately goes, "Oh, the guy who poops on people." And and I mean that in the most whatever innocent way,
Waka
like
waka.
that's just a
Yeah,
matter
yeah.
of
Says the
fact.
woman of faith. Okay,
I
waka
was like,
waka.
cool. He poops on people. They made money off it, I guess, and
Hey
people like.
guys, New York. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you just kind of all right. You shrug it off and you go on.
Party. They go right to the
See,
party.
has always been better, and like I didn't do a ton of like outside work on the farm. We had to do a lot of sorting inside in the root
Mm.
cellar, but like the next day, um I could feel the burn. I was like, wow, this is really an amazing way to get in shape. And my friends who have a homestead, they're
Mhm.
like, oh, we don't need to go to the gym. It's just the homestead that keeps us in.
And they have this grandma wisdom that they'll use. It's like, yeah, but when you do it this way, it's like the subtle working of the entire muscle group in the process instead of just this concentrated action. So you might
It's
not look
functional.
as dramatic, but you're actually stronger.
Mhm.
So it's kind of wild.
Yeah, and you're going to keep yourself healthier for longer. You're going to be less likely to decline. It's a functional movement. It's functional exercise.
This is correct.
Yeah, and compound exercise too, which also builds testosterone for men. Hence, men not looking like men anymore because they are not doing the hard labor to build that testosterone. That's why they say high school children look like little boys now, where they used to look like grown men because kids in high school don't do physical labor anymore.
Ash, at the beginning of the summer, my eldest was one thing. He
Mm,
went out there for 3 weeks knocking heads off with other kids, and I couldn't believe it. His whole body, 3 weeks, completely morphed. And I'm thinking when I'm, 36 and starting to have these kids, I'm like, I'm going to be able to whoop his little monkey butt at basketball till he's 20. And now I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to be able to kick my ass in a year or two. Like
I missed it. What is he doing? Is it work?
he's playing football. He's playing
Oh,
football.
okay.
And we were a baseball soccer family. My dad was football, and when they got my IQ test, he said, "No, you're not." And I was dying. I was crying. I was so angry. I said, "I got to play football, Dad. I got to play football. They want me to play outside and tight end." And they said, "No, no." He said, "You're going to do this to your head. You're going to do this to your hip." So he forbid me, and it really like made me angry. So when Solly wanted to quit goalkeeper, he was like, he was killer. He was a cat. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, I'm going to have my little national team dream someday. Yeah. And then they moved him up. He was a 9-year-old playing with 11-year-olds or something. He was like, man, I don't even want to do this anymore, Dad. Are you mad? And I was like, biting blood. And I said, no, son, I want you to do what you need to do here.
Mm.
So this is the one who went out in the woods and did the wild crafting for 2 years on his own, building forts, edibles, plant identification, building weapons, building traps and snares. Comes
What
to
great
me in
skills.
July and says, "Hey, Dad, would you mind if I like started hitting people?" And I was like, "Yeah, I like that. Just don't do it at school." And he said, "No, I want to play football." I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I was watching those films. Jen Hex will like this. I say he was watching those films of Troy Polamalu, and he decided he wanted to be a strong safety someday. So
So wait, who was the film spy?
the player, old Pittsburgh Steeler, who was a Samoan who used to wear his hair out, and he was just the ultimate football warrior. He was insane. He would jump over people to kill
Oh, okay.
somebody, and he
Oh,
was like a
shoot.
big hero of Pittsburgh Steelers people. Was this Troy Polamalu? So when my
Yeah.
boy gets to experience this for the first time in his life, long after Troy retired, he
Mhm.
said, "Oh, you can do that in football. I want to do that."
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought, see, my brain is going, oh, so who is this director? Okay. So,
Yeah, because of your world. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Ash. Someday, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, you'll see him. And all I got to tell you, look out, because Brad Pitt is an
mhm.
ugly dude compared to my eldest son. I mean, whoa, he's going to be a lady killer. I'm concerned.
Well, and you know what? And good for him because he's got all those skills and everything. So like he's just killing it on every front.
I know. It makes me nervous. It makes me very nervous because his dad was such a ne'er do well.
Well, you know what? At least he's directing that energy into a good, productive place, which is exactly what the powers that be don't want,
I think so.
right? So this is ultimate form of rebellion
I
against
know
them.
their sister is utterly drop dead gorgeous,
Mhm.
and I'm delighted that I have 3 boys that are going to be like 6'4", 6'5".
They're gonna protect her.
Oh yeah, there's going to be hell. Believe me, all of Bucks County is going to have blood and guts all over it for people to disrespect her. Forget
Well,
it.
for her, she's got a whole team of bodyguards.
Hmm.
So, well, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, but I'll catch you in the green room just so we can wrap things
Yeah,
up. So, thank you guys
you
to
guys rock. You guys rock. Thank you. You guys who were with me for my thing, that was an existential moment. I'm just like, I was talking to Brandon Rags. I said, I'm literally kind of heartbroken and I don't know what to do. What should I do? He says, well, you could secret yourself away and go cry in a corner. You could go for a walk in the woods. He said, or you could stream. I was like, go ahead and turn that camera on, Thothschild. I got to go and I'll talk to you later. I was like, oh man. All right. I guess I'm going to share the drama of my life with everybody once again. And then I'm going to go, straight up in there with Ashley right after. So
yeah, you know what? You might as well instead of keeping it in, you make it productive. You get to have the discussion with
I'm sitting there
everybody.
psyching myself up, Ash. Like, don't swear. Don't swear. Don't swear.
You did so well, and thank you. I appreciate that. You were very good.
Thank you. See, I can do it. I could do it.
Yeah, and I knew you could do it. I knew. You were intense. You were going for it last time.
Well, hey, look, okay? Fuck shit. Mm.
There you go.
You
You
got
got
5. Namaste, baby. I'll see you in there.
All right, I'll see you in there.
Yep, yep. Peace, guys. Have a good night.
Okay, I'll see you in a few. So thanks so much, guys, for hanging around this almost 3 hour live stream. It's been a good time. And oh wait, he just disappeared from the. Okay, hopefully he'll come back into it. But sorry, I was looking at my green room over here. But yeah, so you guys are awesome. Always enjoy hanging out with you guys on these weekend nights. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sticking here with me. And I will see you guys next week. You have a good, wonderful rest of your weekend. And yeah, have a good night. Don't let the aliens bite. Bye. I was about to say, well, some of you all are in mourning. Have a good morning. Have a good night. All right, guys. Bye.